Good morning. Russ Clark with you back at Mortgage One Studio. Thank you for listening. I'm going to talk about a couple days I missed. I missed Thursday and Friday. First time I've been on the air since the 90s. First time I ever just wasn't on the air. And I've had illnesses before. I had laryngitis for 2 days, but I arranged replacements. I arranged everything. But where I am right now, I just don't have that kind of organization yet. But our plans are that it's going to happen. We'll be back stronger. My apologies, and I'll tell you about it. Let me get the disclaimer. All content presented on the Russ Clark Show, including statements made by guests, commentators, and callers, reflect the personal opinions of those individuals, and it provides for informational and entertainment purposes only. These views do not represent the official position of Mortgage One Studios, its owners, employees, affiliates, or partners. Mortgage One Studios does not endorse, verify, or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statement made by third parties during programming. I think I had food poisoning, actually. Not really sure. Didn't go to the doctor, although I was as much in pain Thursday and Friday as I remember from having something like that. That was not pleasant. But I think it started with my wife. I think Helen and her son Chris was in town. Helen's son from North Carolina, and of course he wanted to go visit some places he hadn't been in a while, some restaurants and things like that he hadn't been in a while. So the two of them, because I was busy doing other things, the two of them did go out and visit some restaurants, and they got horribly ill, which was unfortunate, and I mean just knocked out ill, and and they had leftovers in the refrigerator. Of course, we quickly threw it out. You know, the leftovers that they said was responsible for the illness. Anyway, well, there was some leftovers in there that they had bought from another restaurant that was not, in their opinions, involved at all. And it was a Mexican restaurant, and there was an unopened burrito. I ate it. I think that was the culprit myself. I think that was where it was. So and it took a while. And of course we're assuming that, so I'm not even giving the restaurant's name because I don't know for sure. But then my business partner got sick and he didn't eat any of them. So I really don't know, but it was definitely food poisoning like illness. And so I spent Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, pretty much at home with very little outside of that. I mean, I did take a bike ride and I did attend a Bible study class, but other than that, I pretty much was at home. I didn't do the show, unfortunately, and so I had a lot to talk about, but I never got to it. Actually, I never did. So maybe we'll cover some of that today. 7:30 today, I got Jim Pfaff again from the Conservative Caucus. We call him in. I'm looking forward to him. He wants to discuss some of the Iranian issues, Virginia Supreme Court redistricting things that are going on and stuff like that. So that'll be actually, I look forward to those calls from Jim. He's a great guy. The weather, I think you guys noticed we got some extreme heat warnings today. I don't know. Is it supposed to be 109 or something today? I need to verify that and take a look. But it's 109 today. Extreme heat warning from 11 o'clock until 8 tonight. So, and then for the rest of the week, it really cools off. It's only 102 tomorrow. 101, 100, 101, 101, 97. So we've got some heat coming in now. What I've been reading this for a little while, and I've been watching it, but people have been predicting an El Nino. I'm not sure I knew what an El Nino was before I moved to Arizona, but I kind of understand it. And it causes a shift in the jet stream and some warmer air from parts of the ocean that causes a shift. So we're going to get more tropical moisture and heat, I guess. First we'll get heat. And it affects the whole southern United States, the whole southern United States. Well, right now, the and I guess there's different levels of El Nino, like there's different levels of hurricane. So they're saying the forecast shows 100% chance now of a super El Nino, a super El Nino. And it suggests it could be the strongest El Nino ever, likely to form by November. Though we're not going to get that moisture yet, but apparently we'll get the heat. It's a little early for 109 degrees, actually. I think this is the culprit from what I've been reading. So we're gonna have a wetter fall and winter, and believe me, with the drought and what's going on, we really need it now. I get told all the time by water people that we really need it in Colorado, up in the mountains, and apparently this would affect that also. In the mountains, that's where we get the river water, and that river water is what we live on. It could be an event to look back on for years, according to many that are reporting it. So, which is kind of scary because I live in an area that could flood. I know that the city has a grant to fix my road from flooding. I need to call and see where that is. I mean, hopefully we get that done by November. I would hope, because we don't. I said in an area that's kind of a low area and it doesn't have a drainage, and it takes pumps. The city has some pumps that pumps it out. But the pumping system is very limited, and quite often it floods up into the yard, not into the house, but into the yard. Well, maybe a super El Nino will make it into the house, and we're not going to look forward to that. We'll be talking to the city and see. Remind them, this El Nino's coming, and I know you have this grant. When does the digging start to put these extra pipes in? The latest forecast calls for 13 named storms and 6 hurricanes. The hurricanes, I guess, are also attached to this. The average is 14, so it's about normal for that. Atlantic water temperature rising to above average for most of the season. It paints a picture of below average tropical activity across most of the Atlantic main development region. The essentially means that while El Nino is set to shut down the Atlantic tropics, it may not shut down all of it. I don't understand what all that means, but it shows above average rain across the South. And my understanding, it's going to start affecting areas like Texas and Florida, dangerous flooding type conditions. So unfortunate for those that are involved. I know I have a yeah, I stacked all my papers up here. I gotta get down to where I need to. Well, I know I have. Okay, here we go. Just a little human news. One was a bicycle. I don't have the exact date it happened, but within the last few days, bicycle on Avenue C, and it says southbound near Avenue C. Anyway, it was 6:00 in the morning on Saturday. There you go, Saturday, 6:40 a.m. Saturday. It's near the central drain. I don't know where the central drain is on Avenue C. The central drain. I'm sure the agricultural people know. But the bicycle veered from the bike lane into the path of a Honda Civic. Never a good idea. A 20-year-old woman was driving that Honda Civic. I'll bet she has got to be in a despondent way. I mean, that's your fault or not. No matter what, it's not easy. Bicyclist was taken on Vita and then flown to Phoenix area due to injuries, and listed in stable. Thank goodness, listed in the stable. A 36-year-old guy riding a bike at 6:30 in the morning. I like it. I like it. It's good exercise and all that, but I don't ride the roads very much. I stay off. As you know, I ride a lot. I do, and it's a lot of canals, and a lot of bike paths, stuff like that. In fact, I told you Saturday, I did get out of the house on Saturday. I went to a Bible study at Lemon Grove. At the Lemon Grove. Now I live out by the hospital, and so I take my bicycle. It starts at 8 o'clock. No problem. I take my bicycle to Lemon Grove, and there in front, around the Marine base on 32nd Street. You've got that. Uh, I guess it's a bike path, a walk path. You see Marines jogging it at times. It's asphalt. Goes around. It starts at the airport and goes around. That's actually just wonderful. And there's a lot of parking lots, sidewalks, a lot of stuff to get there. I do cross the roads, but from my house, I take the canal banks to 32nd, and it's a nice ride in the morning. Beautiful to go up there, and then had a 1 hour meeting and be able to take it home. Not a problem. But I do have I have a head on a swivel. I wear the right helmet, and I have big mirrors on my bike. I see what's coming. I make sure that I'm well off the road if something's coming up behind me. I don't have that nerve. I've ridden in bike rallies with a lot of road bikes. Now mine's not. It's 4-inch wide tires. So I'm off in the gravel and the dirt quite a bit. Um, and I got a battery assist, so pedaling's not a problem. Because it gives me a lot of assist if I need it. And I like getting off, but I've been watching these road bikes when I'm on these rallies, and they'll ride where there's no shoulder, but you got that little white line and maybe about 3 or 4 inches of asphalt outside the white line, towards where a shoulder should be. And I see these guys with these skinny tires riding that like crazy with cars going around them at 40 mile an hour, and I'm like, I just, I God bless them, and they do it. They do it all the day, every day. They do it all the time, and they're successful with it. I just don't have that much faith in these drivers to pay that much attention myself. I stay away from that. Um, that's why I have those off-road tires. Where there's no shoulder, I make one. We just go. We get off the side of the road. Hopefully this guy's okay. 36-year-old man. That's not great news. Hopefully he's okay. It's getting warmer. Obviously, 109 degrees today. For you that have pools in the backyard, this is what you bought them for. It's time. It's time to jump in the pool and all that. And I've got grandkids, and there's a pool at the house, and I worry about it because my youngest grandchild is 3, and he's crazy. Grayson is his name. We call him Gray Skull, or I do. Gray Skull is just wild, crazy, nice guy. I mean, polite young man, but wild. 5 older sisters. Can't blame him, right? He's got tired of getting dressed up like Barbie or something. I don't know what it is. But he's an aggressive all guy, wants to work on stuff, hammer, you name it. Don't give that guy a screwdriver and leave him alone. He's 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 all man and just wanting to just bust out. Wonderful guy, but I don't trust him around the pool. I don't, and I can't be there. I don't live there. I trust my daughter and her husband and all that to make some rules and stuff like that. And I know the older girls try to watch him, and I made sure, and I talked to Casey about it. And Casey, my daughter, she's, you know, we made sure that her first daughter, Caitlin, was in swim lessons early on from, I don't know, 2 years old or something. Red Cross had some lessons going on over at the country club. And of course, we went right over there. Casey took the baby. I did some of them myself, some of the swim lessons. Yeah, they need an adult to be with the child, to hold their heads underwater and blow in their face or something. I don't know. I did a lot of that. A lot of fun. I just want to make sure they're safe around water. We live around water. I know we're in the desert, but we got lakes and rivers, and we've got canals everywhere. There's water everywhere, and there's a danger everywhere. There's pools in many, many backyards. Be careful. Read an article this morning on it, talking about fatal drownings, and I'm going to bring it up, but it's a fact. It's a fact in Arizona. It's a fact everywhere, unfortunately, and a lot of it's preventable. if we knew it was going to happen or we planned uh, for it. And that's what this article's about a little bit. In in Maricopa County, let me see, Maricopa and Pinal counties, I have some numbers there. In 2024, they had 79, just those two counties, 79 reported water-related deaths in 24. They dropped to 57 in 25, and I'll talk about some of the drops. Unfortunately, a lot of those were children under 5. I see children altogether showed 36 children. Under 5, it was 19. Under 5 is 19. And that's that Gray Skull area. Now, Gray Skull knows how to swim. There's no question. And he's a brute. He's strong. He's brute, and he's confident. And he knows the rules. We just need to verify he's got it. In fact, children under 5 fell to 7 in 25 from 19 and 24 on fatal drownings. And I have a friend that lost a daughter in Yuma, Arizona. He made it very public. I don't mind mentioning his name. He's County Supervisor Jonathan Lyons. Jonathan Lyons and a wonderful family, him and Rosie. And I was on the air in AM 560, and he sent me a note he wanted me to read on the air. That was one of the hardest notes I ever had to read on the air. But that family's still together. That family is strong and very, very faith. Faith has carried them. And but man, what a hammer! And that would break up a lot of people. That would destroy a lot of families. It would destroy a lot of people to have something like that happen. And I know they're conscientious. He's safety conscious. But things happen even when you're strong in safety. But we need to be stronger. It's crediting. Some of the advocates are crediting the drop in 25 to CPR training, which is really important, and that's generally free. I think you can find it at, I think fire stations do it occasionally, and there's some. I don't know if Red Cross is active in doing that right now, but probably the county. I took my last CPR training at the county. The county was offering it for employees. I was a county supervisor at the time, and they were offering it. But I'm sure if you call around and you'll find some CPR training. And there's a rise in what they call a designated water watcher. I guess like a designated driver, designated water watcher. I guess somebody that's their job, and it doesn't include alcohol. The water watcher, total sobriety, according to Jay Arthur. He's one of the organizers. It's a total sobriety while on duty. Keep kids visible in the water. And I imagine that means no beer at the side of the pool and an alertness at the same time. They're actually giving training, and some of this is in Phoenix. The Phoenix Fire Stations expanded the low-cost swim lessons and a surge in CPR training. Parents and caregivers, they're counting that. I mean, they're saying that saved a lot of lives from 24 to 25. That those kind of moves saved a lot of lives. They're even giving out water watcher badges. Well, that's good. I think that's great. And that's from the Salt River Project distributed water watcher badges and joined a demonstration of life-saving techniques at the Hilton there in Phoenix at one of the Tapatio Hills resorts. I'm not familiar with that, but these public health experts are recommending multiple layers of protection rather than relying on any one single fix. Teaching children to swim, installing and maintaining full foot pool fencing with self-latching gates. Now that's required in a lot of codes, building codes. There's other ways to get around it. When I built a house, I didn't want that. I didn't want the fence in the backyard. I wanted the yard fenced, of course, and the protection. In order to accomplish that and meet code, all the doors in the house that led into the backyard had to have auto shut on them. It's kind of like a spring-loaded hinge, so that when you release the door, it shut automatically. And I didn't mind that at all. I think something that's even, better is there's some alarm systems that I really like. And I know there's some float ones you put it in there, and if something splashes enough, it'll go off. I'm it's better than nothing. It's there's proximity alerts that I like better, and I can't remember the name of the company now, but they make a camera that you put over your pool, and then on the screen, you can block out the area that you want the proximity to alert, anything surrounding that pool. So you can block out the rest of the yard. The camera can cover the whole yard, but you put a area in there, and that whole pool area, anything gets near that pool area sends off an alarm. That's audible. I mean, absolutely wonderful. Leave it on day and night. Middle of the night, that thing goes off, you got a problem. Somebody snuck in your backyard to take a swim. I don't know. But you'd be just responsible. Your insurance is responsible for all that. I like that system. That seems more foolproof than the thing that floats with batteries and is supposed to alarm, but that alarm's outside the house, not necessarily inside the house. At least the ones I saw. They wouldn't be hooked Bluetooth or anything to anything else, but I like the camera one that can even alert you on your cell phone. That one seemed a lot more thorough to me, a lot more encompassing the whole area around the pool. When nobody's supposed to be there, that thing should be on, and somebody starts walking around the pool, it's going to come on, not waiting until they fall in, which I like a lot. So it says multiple layer protections. That means teaching children to swim. That's paramount. In fact, when my daughter was young and she didn't know how to swim, we bought a house in Yuma when she was young. In fact, I'm trying to think 4 years old. And she couldn't swim at 4. We didn't have a pool in California, but we got to Yuma. We had a pool built in the house we built right across the street from the college. And of course, the first thing to do was make sure that girl could swim. So um, every day after school, you know, we'd be in the pool, me and the baby girl, swimming, and just until she became a fish. And that's just for protection, for my peace of mind, at least for that. Um, Doubling down on life vests, bright swimsuits, keep kids visible in the water, and that's what they call the total sobriety. So don't become don't become somebody that has to live through that. That's terrible. Hands only CPR is a skill. I'm not. I need to go back and take a refresher course. It's been a while since I've done it. I need to do it. And if you, I remember once and this says if you host pool parties and regular caregivers are being urged to plan several layers of protection, which is good. When when my mother-in-law lived in Tucson, Arizona, uh, I I know I flew the baby girl down there. She wasn't very old, and at that time we lived in California, I think, or no, or we just got to Yuma. We hadn't built the pool yet, so she couldn't swim. So grandma wanted to take her to the pool. They had a community pool they wanted to go to, which is great. I love that. And she has these swim things that fit on your arms, little floaty things that are on your arms, which is wonderful. And I was there, and grandma, and we were walking. Grandma was walking with the baby girl, talking, and the baby girl wasn't paying attention and fell in the pool without the floaties. Well, grandma just assumed, well, she's eager to get in and just went and sat down, not knowing this girl can't swim, which is a silly mistake. No big deal. I was behind them. I saw it and I just pulled the little creepy girl out, say, what are you doing, man? Put on your floaties. Be careful. And there was enough people, but nobody in the pool really noticed. I looked, I wasn't far behind. I was 10, 15 feet behind, but nobody in the pool noticed. They just thought, oh, another kid jumped in the pool. Don't assume I've heard of stories like that at a pool party and something that a kid slips into the pool and everyone thinks that kid's just having a good time and swimming and doesn't realize they're in trouble. Don't let that happen. Um, Double down. Floaties and life vests on those kids can't swim. They can't go in the backyard till they put them on. Those kind of things, and keep an eye. Have somebody keep an eye on everybody in that pool. So there you go. I just want to get that out. Uh, one more Yuma deal that a murder suicide in Yuma just before 8 p.m. near Carver Park, not too far from where I live. It's 3rd Street and 13th Avenue. Police were called. They found a 67-year-old Alvin Nelson unresponsive under a gazebo, and then he was taken to on Vita. And about 10 minutes after that, they got a report of an attempted suicide about 2 miles away at 18th Street and 5th Avenue, where they found 55-year-old Richard Carter also taken to the hospital and believed to be involved in the murder at Carver Park. Both of them passed at the hospital. The police are asking for anybody with any idea what's going on with that to call. I don't know that they've found a solution to that kind of nonsense or what happened that would cause that kind of stuff. 67 years old is young. I didn't used to think so. I did. I've become more in line with that stuff. Oh, I got to tell you, in about 1 hour, Jim Pfaff, maybe I did tell you, Jim Pfaff, the Conservative Caucus will be calling him. And I say it to remind myself, too. I set my alarm. I don't want to forget that. Phone lines are open. I think. Let me verify I've got my phone linked. Of course, it's not, but we'll be here in just a second. Phone lines are open, 928-941-0304. Arizona's Medicaid, a large article on that I read this morning on Arizona's Medicaid. According to this article, 1 in 4 people in Arizona are on some assistance of Medicaid. Or access. I'm just kind of surprised. I mean, I know it gets high, too high, and we know that in other states there's been a lot of fraud. Like in Minneapolis, we saw that with the things going on, and people are being arrested for childcare fraud, medical fraud. It just seems to be a way of life in Minnesota. I hope we get that all straightened out. And of course, they're working on California right now, which they think is just as bad. And these states, just so you know, Medicaid is a state and federal program. Federal funding goes into it, but the state is responsible for all the administration of the policies. The administration is done by the states, and the Fed cuts checks and sends to them. Well, they've cut Minnesota off until they straighten out their game and they start reporting. And they've asked for records to prove that the people that they're doling the money out to are alive. They're legal recipients and all that. And they get denied. These states are denying it. No, we don't need to send you the money. It's our job to take care of it. That's not going to last. And of course, President Trump has cut some states back, cut some states off until, we get our program put together, start working it out. And I didn't realize, but according to this article, the one big beautiful bill that passed introduced some Medicaid restrictions, and it looked to redefine work and income level requirements by January 2027 for the next decade, which it needs to be redone. According to what I'm reading here, it's not going to have much of any effect in the state of Arizona. And that's according to one of the experts that I was reading on it that has served as Beth Kohler. She's a former deputy director of Access. So, and I'll get more into her, but she says it's not going to have much of any effect on us. But according to this article, they're really tightening things up in the state of Arizona, as they should. I mean, they're watching what's going on in Minneapolis and California, and the last thing we want is to have big investigations here because there's problems. We don't need that opportunity to get cut off or anything. Would not be good. Well, this program was implemented in 1982 in the state. That's and a Obama era Affordable Care Act expanded it. The Medicare it's reached based on income levels. Obamacare is a disaster, but it's what we have. In fact, on Obamacare, um, if you're receiving Obamacare, and it's generally one of the only ones available in certain times. It may be only Obamacare. You go on and apply for Obamacare, and you get handed over to an insurance company like Blue Cross or something in this state, and you get the Blue Cross card and all that, and you may not know it, but it's Medicaid that's paying for a lot of that, which I didn't know, and that's why they come up with 1 in 4 Arizonans. Some of these people are on Obamacare, but Obamacare is not free normally always. It can be, but it gradually gets to where you have to pay for the whole thing. But even so, if you're on it and you're still paying part of it, part of it's going to come from Medicaid, and I guess that's where they get you as about 1 in 4 Arizonas are on the Medicaid program and don't even know it. Maybe you might not even sure. But according to Dr. Daniel Dirksen, he's an expert on the Arizona healthcare system. He said the Affordable Care Act expanded Medicaid's reach on income levels. The rate of uninsured Arizonans has lessened significantly. Well, I question that. Um, he well, he says what really helps do is stabilize those communities that tend to serve a disproportionate share of people on Medicaid or uninsured. The program removes some of the burdens and uncompensated or charity care. The rate of uninsured Arizonans was about 16%. I don't believe it's ever that low. Now he says it's 10%, but the number's climbing. I think it's higher, but I certainly will. Part of this article says it's higher, but no one agrees. I guess maybe it's a hard number to come up with. Now, he says changes to the access has already started. It's divided into 3 parts. There's the ALTCS, or the Arizona Long-Term Care System, which is designed for older adults, people with disabilities. Because older adults who use the program are also covered by Medicare. I guess they're covered by Medicare, but Medicare does not cover everything if you don't have the extra insurance and you have to pay for that. So I guess there's a Medicaid that can supplement Medicare. Then there's kids care. It's the statewide version of CHIP, or Children's Health Insurance Program. But the big one is the Access, AHCCCS. Most all our Medicaid enrollment is rechanneled through private health insurance vendors, which I just mentioned. And so the money's the money goes into the insurance companies are the ones that are paid. They're the managed care model. The money flows from the government to the state to the insurance companies that pay a monthly fee per member from HCCS. Finally, the money goes to the patient. I wonder what percentage actually gets to the patient. Something tells me it's less than I would think. As far as how you get Arizona's Medicaid program, now this is what Beth Kohler comes in this article, and she's the former manager. It starts with the application to prove eligibility, and it's common misconception that we have a lot of people on the program who are not citizens, but citizens is part of it. It's a requirement. I'm glad to hear her say that. because that's a problem we're having in a lot of other states is the citizenship requirement. The states are refusing to give over records. Like it's none of your business if we're giving it to non-citizens. Of course it is. But according to Beth, that's upheld in the state of Arizona. Non-citizens may qualify, though, including green card holders and refugees. And I didn't give details as to when and why, but some of them are. If you're kicked out of the system, if there's some flag that comes up and says, "Wait a minute, you're not eligible. You have to get out of it." You get 90 days. You get sent a letter, and you have 90 days where you're required to send additional information to prove or determine that you have continued eligibility. But after 90 days, then you would be sent out of the system because you were in it and didn't qualify. If you don't have health insurance and you don't have another avenue to get it, like your employer, you should apply. And that's according to Beth Kohler. It has a large coverage pool, broad. It's broad, and it says it's facing, people facing severe poverty, or to those that lack health insurance coverage. For as long as I've been working in this system, I would never be able to look at someone as an individual and say, you will or you won't qualify. So I guess they find a way to help you. The individuals who will be impacted by the work requirements, for example, and this is from the big beautiful bill, are people in specific federal eligibility categories that basically are working age adults without dependent children who are not seniors. So if you're a 35-year-old male in good shape and you just want health insurance but don't want to work, I guess you're not going to get it. She doesn't believe. She says it doesn't believe most people will be impacted at all. Yeah, somebody that irresponsible. Do they care about health insurance? Do they? I don't know. The agencies focus on complying with evolving federal and state requirements while minimizing disruptions for members and providers. And that gives me a good feeling. Unlike when you listen to Minnesota and California, the politicians and the administrators screaming, like, how dare you check and all that. You're letting kids have not health care. You're killing people, they refuse to give over records, and that's why they're being investigated for fraud. Compliance involves a combination of policy, operational, and system level updates, including adjusting existing eligibility and renewing business rules, refining verification logic, and enhancing reporting and audit capabilities with current platforms. And they're also in the midst of a modernization program right here in Arizona, which I would imagine that's good. It's aimed to speed up claim processing, strengthen confidential health data through HIPAA and HI trust, I don't know what that is, to improve overall efficiencies. These systems provide stronger access controls, improved monitoring, greater reliability, and better protect sensitive member information. Now, when Doge started with Elon Musk, the left went nuts. The liberal left went bonkers. Like, how dare you cut out waste, fraud, and abuse? And that's what it was all about, free fraud. You're hurting people. These are real jobs and real people and all that kind of stuff, because there was a lot of fraudulent stuff going on that people were making a good living doing fraud, and they didn't want it to stop, which was unfortunate. In fact, they attacked Teslas. They were burning them, and they were doing everything they could to disrupt, which they continue to do. In Washington, I mean, the Democrats are all about, we're at war with the Republicans instead of we're going to discuss policy. Well, it's nice to hear that, and well, during Doge, before I lose track of that, but they were looking at improving the systems, and Elon Musk said they were amazed how easy it was to create the fraud. You remember that when it was such a target-rich area to find it. He was just shocked by how easy it was, and the systems didn't communicate with it. And I forget, it was like 40, 50 different systems that were old. Some of them records were kept in salt mines or something, in filing cabinets. I mean, it was just archaic, and It was intentional, intentional. Because if the system is so fragmented and so hard to research, you can't find fraud easily. Well, Musk overcame some of that by writing programs, go into the system and pull out information in an orderly fashion that the system wasn't set up for, but he set up a program that could do it and found tons of irregularities, checks that went to people that didn't exist, all kinds of stuff. Uh, and you come to the realization that the left doesn't want modernization. They don't want access to that kind of information. They want to make the rules and then don't live by them and make everyone else live by them. That's, the honest people. And that's when we get Minnesota and we get California and the fraud that they're finding out there is way outside the rules, but there was no easy way to catch it, at least from a federal level. And at the state level, they just didn't want to, because that's money going into the state. Anytime you got money going into the state, I'm sure they're like, let's take it. Even if it was stolen, even if it was fraud, even if it goes to people it's taking it out of the hands of the people that deserve it, they just allowed it to happen. So when I read here that they're going through a modernization process, I'm great with it. That'd be better tracking, better understanding of where the money's going and coming from, better creation of list of people that fall outside the plan. All the things I'm sure that Minnesota and California doesn't want. Maybe they're not updating theirs. Like, keep it stupid, keep your system stupid, and then it's easier to cheat it. Maybe I become jaded, but that's what I believe is happening. That's what they're working on. Well, now I said at the very beginning that Dirksen said something about uninsured Arizona's was about 16%. Now it's 10. At the end of this article, says we've seen a 20% uninsured, and we've had closures of rural hospitals and clinics, according to Dirksen. So I don't know which number to I believe the 20% more than I believe the 10. I don't know how many people are uninsured. I know people that are. I know people that choose to be uninsured. Not a good plan. Something can happen. So I'm a big believer in insurance. I do carry insurance. Of course, I'm on Medicare now, and I do carry additional insurance beyond that. The Part B or whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is anymore, and it changes all the time, I guess. I have other people look at it for me. Get the help. It doesn't cost you anything. Get somebody you trust to help on that in the insurance industry. Don't try to do it yourself. Marines are going to phase out the FA-18. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that was coming, but I guess it makes sense. They're not phasing out the A-10, FA-18. In fact, Edward sent me that this morning. He sent that to me, and he wrote, sad. I guess he likes the FA-18. What's not to like? But it's transitioning to an all F-35 tactical aircraft fleet. And of course, that was the mission when they first started the F-35, was to have one plane so that spare parts, all the same across, Air Force, Navy, Marines, all that, Army. Army don't have F-35s, but all of it would be the same aircraft. So a lot of interchangeable parts, motors, all that kind of stuff would be common. And of course, you're having to train all the mechanics, train the people to work on it, and the particulars about that. Everything goes along with that aircraft. So the whole idea when they brought in the F-35 was to make a tactical aircraft that could fit everybody. Could land on a carrier, could land on a runway, with some modifications to the landing gears and stuff like that. They make one for the Air Force, one for the Navy, but and one for the Marines. That's right, the Marines have it. The vertical takeoff. They do that. So it kind of took over the Harrier, the F-16, the FA-18, A-10, but right now they're finding that the A-10 is kind of remarkable. Let's leave it alone for now. But the FA-18 is on its way out. They've already taken a lot out, just like they did the Harriers here. And, you didn't really notice it, but as the Harriers started disappearing, I don't even know if there's any left. I can't remember the last time I saw one, but, um, they did it, one squadron at a time probably, and just, little by little, they flipped it over from the Harrier, which is a totally different plane. Just talking to the pilots and stuff, it's not, you know, they perform the same function, but they're not the same plane at all. But they've been doing that to the FA-18. They've been working the F-35s in and slowly working them out anyway. They've got 3 bases right now with the FA-18. South Carolina is going to be gone by August 1st of 28. Miramar, right there in California, August 1st of 29. And then Fort Worth, Texas, August 1st to 30. They're going to be all gone. They've already started eliminated the maintenance specialties associated with the fire. That's going to happen at the same time. But Marines are currently serving in 1 of 6 affected specialties. Mechanic, avionics, technical roles have the ability or the opportunity anyway to retrain for F-35 jobs or move into another specialty. And they're encouraging lateral moves, FA-18 to F-35, and it's a different airplane. It's a different, I'm sure it's a whole different skill set or understanding of how to get things done. So I'm sure the FA-18 guys are disappointed in that. Man, I can fix this airplane blindfolded. Now I got something brand new. If you don't decide to go voluntarily, it may happen anyway. Who knows? According to this, the FA-18 has been around since 1983. They started deactivating squadrons in 2018. In fact, in 2018, the service deactivated its squadron for training FA-18 pilots. So that was deactivated in 18. So it's been gone for a while. It used to be the workhorse of the Marine Corps tactical aviation, and they're still flying. Well, the Marines plan to have a fleet of 420 aircraft of F-35s. And they're going to expand to 420. I have no idea where they are, but you see a lot of them around Yuma Air Station. And they're loud. They're louder. You thought the Harriers were loud. These are louder. If you remember the Harriers, they are louder. See, Senator Mark Kelly's in the news. I am so disappointed, I guess. You remember Mark Kelly was the one that, had a run-in with Trump. He hates Trump. So, he and a few others put a video together saying that, people in the military can refuse orders. Remember that? He did that. And, of course, Pete Hegseth reduced his rank and did all that kind of stuff. And, of course, that got undone by the courts. I don't know if you know that. I wasn't completely aware, but yeah, that got undone by the courts. So Mark Kelly's really feeling his oats. I mean, he's got his whole First Amendment thing going on. I don't know how that works, but I mean, he still can be recalled into the military and still supposed to follow some military protocol, but I guess he got a pass. Well, just the other day, Mark Kelly went on the air with Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation and talked openly about how much he hates Trump, but in relation to the Iranian war, what's going on. Of course, he's going to talk as negatively as he can about the whole thing, and he says and he was asked some questions about how it's affecting us. And he says it's shocking how deep we have gone into these magazines, meaning the military hardware. Because he was asked about it and updated, asked if the Pentagon had updated lawmakers on the Iran's war impact. Specifically, he was asked, has the Pentagon updated lawmakers on the impact on U.S. weapons stockpile? So he goes on to say, Tomahawks, Army tactical missile, ATACMS, RIM-161 standard missile, terminal high altitude area defense or THAAD rounds, Patriot rounds used to defend the U.S. have been hit hard. It will take years to replenish these stockpiles, which could affect a hypothetical U.S. conflict with China. Well, Hegseth was not happy about that. Particularly mentioned, he was asked, what does the Pentagon say? And well, anything the Pentagon's telling Mark Kelly, which is I think is on the Armed Services Committee, is classified. Now, he didn't give numbers, but he gave a gloomy picture for sure. So Hegseth put on X, Captain Mark Kelly strikes again. Now he's blabbing on TV, false and dumbly, about a classified Pentagon briefing he received. Did he violate his oath again? Department of War legal counsel will review. So Kelly fires back. I mean, he's really feeling strong in his conviction that he's right about everything and he's being picked on. We had this conversation. Kelly writes this on X. He said, we had this conversation in a public hearing a week ago, and you said it would take years to replenish some of these stockpiles. That's not classified. It's a quote from you. The war is coming at a serious cost, and you and the president still haven't explained to the American people what the goal is, which is complete BS. I mean, they take the time, and I know Marco Rubio takes the time to explain the goal specifically all the time, because they keep getting hit with that. You haven't said what the goal is. Well, I think they keep saying it over and over and over again. Now, this comes after this other nonsense where, he's telling military and intelligence community professionals, or they were with him saying he swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I'll just read it. Right now, the threats coming to our Constitution aren't just coming abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders. No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution. Well, he's not factually incorrect, of course. I don't know about you must refuse illegal orders. I don't know. But he says it's coming from home, and he's cautioning people. It's already happening, I guess. I think he's out of line. Of course, the federal courts blocked the Pentagon from demoting Kelly, which Hegseth had happen, demoted him, because he still gets retirement benefits based on his rank. And the court also found the Pentagon likely violated Kelly's First Amendment rights and those of millions of military retirees that it formally censured him on January 5th. It's not done. I mean, it's still under appeal, but I have no idea where it's going to go. Donald Trump had accused Kelly of being traitors, or all of them that were writing emphatically there's something else going on and you need to refuse orders, who engaged in the sedition at the highest level and should be in jail. He even suggested they should be executed over the video. I don't think he said they should be. I think he said treason would be, but I'll have to go back and look. He attempted to walk that back. I don't know that he walked it back. He just clarified what he meant. Well, one of them, Slocum, who previously worked at the CIA and Pentagon, was targeted with a bomb threat. In other words, someone said, I've got a bomb. And there was no bomb, just targeted with a bomb threat just days after the clip. And Trump subsequently statements suggested Democrats be executed, which I don't think he specifically said that. But the left has been outrageous in their comments about Trump and the elimination of Trump. And they fight it all the time as First Amendment rights, I guess. And Trump has been shot at and hit in the ear. And Slavkin, I guess, had somebody pick up a phone and say, "There's a bomb in your car," or something. I don't know what the incident is. I have no idea. But I don't get the impression it was a real bomber. That would have been highlighted that there was an actual bomb. That didn't happen. Kelly's also screaming about the budget. And of course, he's a senator in the United States Senate, and he's supposed to be budget conscious and particularly military. Well, Kelly doesn't like Trump, so there's nothing coming out of the Trump administration is going to be acceptable according to current Democrat doctrine, TDS. He said they need to submit a defense budget that makes sense for the moment we're in. And he was telling that to Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation. He said last month the administration released its fiscal year 2027 budget proposal. It's a starting point for negotiations with Congress over annual sparing. It would mark a 42% increase in defense spending from 26 levels, which is a big number. When I got to the Senate 5.5 years ago, defense budget was just over $700 billion. Now they're asking for twice as much money. It's nearly the amount that the rest of the world pays for its defense. And maybe we need to spend that much because we don't have any allies, I guess, except in NATO doesn't seem to be much of an ally. And that's a sidebar, but it looks like Trump's going to be pulling back from some of the commitments we've made overseas for the last 70 years. Troops overseas, air bases overseas, protection for foreign countries overseas that don't work with us, that just don't work with us. It doesn't make sense. It's time to reorganize it all. Kelly is on the Senate Armed Service Committee. Some of the budget's proposals components pose serious difficulties. In addition to pay raises for troops, resupplying critical munitions, the fund would also go towards building a space-based gold dome, missile system, amongst other things. I say thank you for that. Now, and that's something Ronald Reagan even talked about with the Star Wars thing about having, systems to protect us overall, more automation and better systems to protect us. We've seen what's happened in Israel with their domes and the things that they're able to do. Now, that's a country the size of New Jersey. And they have been really successful at looking at these things on, the layered approach, hitting things at long range, mid range, close range, whatever, and triaging and working in everything from missiles, drones, aircraft, to able and electronic warfare in order to basically protect the citizens of Israel. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And this dome concept is from what I understand, kind of working very well for the military on like aircraft carriers that have multi-layered dome around that entire carrier group. I know they don't call it that, but from reading about some of the things that has been going on recently on how they all interact, they all communicate, whether it's the planes, the different ships, submarines, whatever it is, Space Force, all of it, are in such tight communications, they've been able to take on swarms of stuff coming out of Iran that wouldn't have been possible years ago. And if that's the kind of golden dome that we need in the United States, where we have complete interaction from all the opportunities, all the defensive mechanisms that we've got throughout the country, I'm all for it. We're not living in a safer world today. When Kelly says, we've got to budget that makes sense for the moment we're in. Well, the moment we're in doesn't look like that it's safe. We've got NATO allies that won't come to our assistance. We've been at war for 47 years with Iran, or at least they have been with us, and we just haven't recognized it. We got China that has never spent more on military, that is ramping up for something. including threats to Taiwan and some other threats that I'm going to talk about later. I don't know that, Mr. Kelly, that we're ready to sit back and rest and say, no problems here, nothing going on. I don't think so. I don't know what the budget increase should be. I don't know what it isn't, but I think I'd be more open to listen to it all. And I'd like the idea of the Golden Dome. But here's what Kelly says about it. He says there's stuff in there like Golden Dome, like physics on that stuff is really, really hard. I better take that phone call. I still have the ringer on. Let's take a phone call. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing, sir? I hope you're feeling better.
Man, thank you. And I do. It's been 4 days. That's enough.
Oh, I guess you lost some weight.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 ounces or something. I don't know. I haven't looked. I probably did.
Water weight.
Yeah, maybe. I think I had water gain first. So, man, I got bloated.
I want to respond to this scumbag, Kelly.
Oh man,
what a POS!
I agree.
And he floats in the toilet.
I keep thinking I can't like him any less, but he keeps one-upping me.
What committee did you say he was with? The military?
Yeah, Armed Services.
Armed Services Committee.
Yeah.
Gee, was he in the Armed Service Committee when Obama sent that billions of dollars to?
I think so.
Was he in the Armed Service Committee when Hillary Clinton sent all that yellow cake to Iran?
I don't know. He's only been in the Senate 5.5 years, so probably not.
He never mentions any of that, though.
Yeah.
Do you think our military effort, our men that are over there, women that are over there, have a harder job because a treasonous president, a half-white homosexual, gave money to a country that said death to America?
I don't know if all that's true about Obama, but I know what you mean. Whether or not Obama giving money to people who said death to America absolutely made us more unsafe, absolutely put us in danger. And Biden did the same thing, I think even more.
And the same thing with the yellow cake. The problem we have right now, this would all be over. This would all be over if it wasn't for having to get that yellow cake back. And that is going to be a miracle that we do get it back.
I'm not disagreeing with you because, man, I can't figure out what's going on. In fact, I'm looking forward to having Jim Pfaff on in a half hour. He's got more insight on this stuff than I do, but it seems to be stalled. I mean, Iran is good at stalling. I guess that's their profession, and it's happening. But I think Trump is enjoying the stall. I don't know. I
mean, it is going to take boots on the ground to get it back.
I hope not.
It has to. How else are you going? That's a great tonnage of uranium. How else are you going to get it back?
Oh, well, hopefully it's boots on the ground because we're invited to retrieve it. I hope that's the case. But there'd have to be a big break in Iran to do that. The current regime is never going to do that. That would be their death. Their death as regime, their death probably physically. So they're backed into a corner. They can't agree with Trump, and they have to stay hardline even if the population starts coming after them.
But wasn't it what country was always saying death to America? Which country was that?
That was Iran constantly. I mean, that's what they
was Iran. And Barack Obama was a president of the United States, and he aided and abetted a country that said death to America. It's not funny.
But they don't just say it at their legislative meetings like we say the Pledge of Allegiance. They say death to America. Right. They say it in grade school, man. They get these kids singing it, from the time they enter school.
This punk can say whatever he wants to say with impunity, and he won't talk about the money that Barack Obama gave to the enemy.
He's getting
the uranium that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton gave to the enemy.
He's getting cockier and more comfortable in his skin. He's becoming more outrageous. He's almost like Hakeem Jeffries at this point.
Yeah. I got a name. I was listening to somebody this week, and I was wondering if you know the name. Um,
What's that?
Ryan Meeks. Is that name familiar?
Not sure. I don't. Meek sounds
He
familiar. I know.
has a podcast that was totally saying that the water situation that Arizona is going through is all a lie. I was just wondering if you knew who that person was.
I do not, and I would be surprised if it's all a lie. But I'm willing to listen.
So it was about an hour long. He was talking about this, and he was saying we had like 4 sources of water that just totally makes that untrue. But I don't believe him. I don't even, I don't, I think that is a counter to the Arizona um, people who have been asleep at the door.
Yeah. No, I see him on YouTube. He put out one 2 days ago. It says they're lying to you about Phoenix water crisis. I'd be curious to see what he's thinking of, because I don't know any water expert that thinks they're lying to us. But
Well, I was just wondering if that name rang a bell with you. If you had any feelings about him.
no, but I know there's a lot of water underground in Yuma. There's a lot of water that is still available. Some of it needs to be desaled. But I mean, we're still in a drought right now from surface water, particularly, and some of the groundwater has receded. It's deeper than it was, but I don't know how much is really available, and I don't know why we don't go after new sources. And we need somebody with some guts to go after new sources.
Foresight, people with foresight.
Yeah,
but you stay healthy there, young man.
I appreciate the call, man.
You have a good day.
Thank you. Bye bye. That was Mike. Yeah, I don't get sick very often. Knock on wood. I guess that's superstition. I don't, but I certainly caught it this time. Getting back to Mark Kelly, when talking about the Golden Dome, there's stuff in there like the Golden Dome, the physics on that stuff, really, really hard. I'm very confident we're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to get a system that doesn't work. What an idiot. The physics are hard. I mean, he's a military guy. He knows more about what the military is doing with Golden Dome type systems on aircraft carriers and that are attached to the ships, the aircraft and everything. Why shouldn't we have that all over the United States? It's already working. He says it won't work. I don't. Unless I misunderstand, is the Golden Dome something we have to recreate, something new? We're not going to take existing systems that have been working in Israel for decades, and these other systems that we work in the military that puts a dome around our aircraft carriers. And if they don't call it a dome, if they call it something else, let me know what that is. So I don't say something that is cringeworthy to a military person, but I know they have a shield around them, electronically, and everything's connected. All information shared by all assets. All assets have availability to information, whether they create the information or it's created somewhere else. They can see each other's radar. They can see each other's satellites. They can see each other. I mean, the airplanes, the aircraft, the boats, the submarines, ships, all of it. They all share. They can tie it together. Why can't? And that creates a pretty good sized bubble around them, that they know everything that's moving, everything that's coming, everything that's going, and how big the threat is, and what kind of assets it's going to take out the threats, because it's a swarm or something. They have amazing technology, amazing ability, even to overcome sophisticated jammers, which has happened during this conflict with Iran, where there's been jammers to jam those systems, and they can counter those and still stop a swarm. And I guess that's why they feel comfortable floating those huge targets of an aircraft carrier out in the middle of those Arabian Sea. Just go on out there. We got you covered, even against hypersonic missiles. And it looks like they were right. And I still commend Donald Trump for trusting our military and letting them do what they do and listening to them. We've had presidents for many years that don't listen to the military. And it looks like Kelly's one of them. Kelly goes on to say, talking about, let me see, he says, I think it's fair to say it's shocking how deep that we've gone into these magazines because this president got our country into this without strategic goal, without plan, without a timeline. Because of that, we've expended a lot of munitions, and that means the American people are less safe. Whether it's a conflict in the Western Pacific with China or somewhere else in the world, the munitions are depleted. Wow. Right while we're in the middle of this conflict, he's not supportive of the country at all. And he's spewing this nonsense as if it was just Trump's ego that started this. Trump's been talking about the dangers of an Iran many years before I ever thought about running for president. And that's all on great question from a listener and a fair one. More deficit spending on defense. Where is the money coming from? Medicare, education, etc. That's actually a great question, and that needs to be addressed. I'm not a big fan of deficit spending either, and I'm not advocating for deficit spending. And those answers need to happen. Answers to these questions. I think some of the answers is fraud, waste, and abuse is going to go away. Yes, and yes, that comes out of Medicare or Medicaid. Now, and people say you hear the left all the time say, well, he's cutting Medicaid, Medicare, he's cutting that. No, he's not really. Show me the program that's cut. There's no program cut. What's cut is the fraud. What's cut is the people that aren't following the rules, that are illegal, not breaking the law, claiming things that aren't claiming. Yeah, that's going to get cut. All that's going to get cut. And that's billions of dollars, not trillions, billions, many billions. Education, I don't. I think education should be cut. I think there's a lot of money wasted in education myself. The money that doesn't get into the classroom. I'm disappointed with some of the education. As technology's improved and technology in transmission of information and all that's improved, you would think education would become cheaper at the institutions, particularly at the college level. It doesn't. They keep raising the rates. Some of the education's ridiculous in my mind. And when I see what's going on with the ESA, the education opportunities through ESA at half the money. ESA costs half as much to the state, half as much. ESA. And I think some of these kids are getting much better education. And yes, they're using some of them public. You mean like the local colleges and stuff with that, which, they pay for. But they're doing that at half the money. And yet all we hear from our governor here is ESA is going to bankrupt us. No. ESA may end up saving our education system. And we need to turn public education around. I mean, it needs to be more money into the classroom. But I think fraud, waste, and abuse, I think a lot of the military, and I'm listening to some of the stuff from what Trump and other experts say. A lot of the military stuff, we're spending so much overseas on countries, on their defense, that they need to pony up. Trump has been saying it for decades. Before he was president. And as soon as he was president, he went right after NATO and says, guys, start doing your job. We're not doing it. We're going to stop doing it for you. And I got some stories here about how he's starting that now. He's going to start pulling troops out from overseas. I don't know what we spend on all that, but I think we have 33,000 troops permanently in Germany. And we've had that for 70 years, along with all the armaments and the hardware and everything that goes on to protect that country from Russia. So Germany stopped spending it on themselves because you know what? U.S. taxpayers are taking care of it. Well, I think those 33,000 should be here, part of the Golden Dome, along with all the armaments and the Patriot missiles and all the other stuff, the Tomahawks, everything else they have. Just bring it all over here. And Germany doesn't appreciate us. I mean, they've been unfair with the tariffs forever, and now the tariff thing's been turning around. But anyway. But it's a great question, and it needs to be handled to where we're not going to destroy our future. And I think a lot of that is going to be our growth too. And I got some stories on some specifics here on the money that's pouring into America right now that we haven't felt yet. We haven't felt it because it's building in order to start manufacturing, where they're doing the building to start the manufacturing. And we can become a behemoth again as far as manufacturing. And that brings real wealth. And we don't have to tax billionaires more money to do that. It's just going to happen because we create it. I think it all can be handled. This listener also says Russia is supplying drone parts to Iran through the Caspian Sea. Wonder if Trump and Hegseth foresaw that possibility. I'm sure they did. They've also cut off one of the land routes recently from Russia or from China, I think. China. But I'm surprised Russia can do that. I mean, I hadn't heard of it personally about Russia supplying drone parts to Iran. Maybe they're replenishing the drone parts that Iran gave them. I don't know. But the connection between Iran and Russia has been going on because of Ukraine for 3 years, I think. You know, with the Shahed drones and stuff like that, and the sharing of information and stuff. And Russia really started manufacturing in a huge way the Shahed drones and that. And Ukraine shoots down thousands of them. They swarm them, and they've gotten to the point where Ukraine can shoot them down cheap now. It used to cost $1 million missile to shoot down a $30,000 drone. I guess that's all changing. Now they can use $1,000 drone to take down a $30,000 drone, which is much better. I mean, the technology and the advancement and ability is just mind-boggling fast. I'd be curious of how much Russia is really doing. On comments like half-white homosexual allowed on Facebook, I would imagine it is. I don't think that's true, but I separate myself from that. I don't approve of that, and I don't. And of course, that was a reference made towards Barack Obama, and none of that. And I stated right afterwards, I don't know that any of that's ever been, verified, and I don't care. And I changed it to Barack Obama. I don't get involved in that. Sounds like pretty racist and very inappropriate. It is inappropriate. I'm agreeing with that. I don't subscribe to that type of language myself. I live in a world where it exists, but I separate myself from it. And it makes my job tougher, to tell you the truth, because then I have to pay attention enough to separate myself from those comments. Because I think the outrage of the actions that Obama's taken are plenty enough to talk about. Yeah, we don't need to make up stories about his private, person or what his heritage is. I mean, I don't. I mean, I accept everybody except the Irish. That's about it. Of course, that's a joke, by the way. Just in case Edward's listening. Irish need not apply. He's very Irish. And yes, and Edward and I have talked about that before, about the Irish need not apply. That's a real thing if you don't know the history of our country. Those signs were, I guess, right when you got off the boat, you walk into town and businesses would have them up. Edward actually has, and I didn't know this till recently. I asked him if he was going to make a sign, Irish need not apply or something. And he, it was over a different issue. And he said, oh, I have some, I guess he has some original Irish need not apply signs to remind himself of some of that stuff that went on back in our country, which is amazing. And I know there's people that think it's just, well, the only people that had it tough were people, blacks. No, there's a lot of people, Jews and Irish, Chinese, and Pacific Islanders, you name it. I mean, there's been unfortunate judging people by skin color, by race, has gone on forever, and it still goes on somewhat. And we're supposed to be against that. I think mostly we are. I think people push back against that stuff, and it's unnecessary. But unfortunately, we've got the left that I think is championing that by championing the separate races. Not like we're one community, but separate champion. Everyone needs special treatment, special organizations, special legislative districts by race, which is illegal according to our Constitution. Can't do that. Civil Rights Acts and equal treatment and all that. But yet we ignore it if it's for good racism. Good racism is we try to promote one race over another that needs it. That's according to the left, not to me. To the left. Yeah, well, this race has had a hard time, so let's give them special favors and not and take it away from someone else. That redistribution is just crazy. You got the redistribution of wealth on the left. You got the redistribution of race problems on the left. It's just ridiculous. You can't keep up with it. It's not manageable. It's chaos, and I think that's the end goal. I do. I think the whole goal is chaos, and that's what you get when you follow those guidelines. And yeah, I went to a historical black college, because I was curious. I mean, I'm curious about why racism. Why? Because I grew up on a military base. I didn't see it, and of course I learned a lot at the college, but I also saw a lot of kids that felt entitled because in history, the race that they currently occupy didn't have advantages. So they want something extra. And I just think that maintains the status quo of racism. You don't fix racism by creating more racism. It should be fairly obvious. You fix racism by not tolerating it at any level. It's just not tolerated. And it doesn't make a difference. And we're such a mixed race in this country anyway. I don't know how you separate them anymore. You can't. You can't unbake that cake, man. You can't. But it's like everyone's got to pick a side because we're at war racially, and that's just ridiculous unless you're in prison. At least that's what I understand. I don't have any experience at all in that way. I don't. I don't want to. I got a lot of stories I need to cover real quick. I've got Jim calling me in about 6 minutes. I didn't want to cover something that's going to take me 20 minutes to get through. This real quick one, I think. It's a White House economist, Kevin Hassett. He's the National Economic Council director. He was just out this last Sunday. He says, I think we really could be looking at numbers north of 4 or 5, north of even 6%. Now, what he's talking about is numbers of growth in GDP expansion this year. That's kind of a big number. I mean, I'm an optimist. I really would like to think he's right. We're not seeing it right now. We're in the 2s or 3s, which I guess, there 3 is a big number that they're looking for. He said the acceleration in capital spending, noting that the investment jumped 3.3% in March alone, not an annualized rate. Okay, that's a monthly rate. So multiply that by 12, and you're looking at historic capital spending numbers. Trump administration's tax policies and onshoring efforts. Well, we know it's coming. I didn't know that quickly. 3% in a month is a lot. He said the surge in investment is laying the foundation for a sustained period of stronger economic growth once new factories and infrastructure come online. Remember, the 2% number that you saw for GDP growth, the reason why it was 2% and not 4 or 5 was that we imported a record number of capital goods because we're building all these factories. Once we turn those factories on, you're going to really see growth unlike anything we've seen before. I think I think he's right, but I don't want to be that optimistic. He says it's between 5 and 8% right now. If you divide that by 3, that's about as much as GDP growth that you get out of just capital spending. And he goes on to say if gas prices fall, the potential for gas prices to fall in the near future, which of course is going to boost everybody. We got to get the Strait of Hormuz, right? I understand. Did I hear that the French sent an aircraft carrier out towards the straits? Did I hear that? I think so. I think so. He said, he goes on to say, now there's a bit of a lag from that, when you get the gas, the oil cheaper. It takes a while to get through the system as gasoline. He says, we've got to get the boats to move from the Persian Gulf, especially Asia, where jet fuel prices are so high. And that can take a month or 2. But once basically the gusher opens, then we expect oil prices could drop relatively quickly and certainly ahead of the election. And I like the talk about the election. I like to know that Trump is aware that the election is a priority and that we need to have it. But tying it to the ending in Iran is kind of dangerous in that the Iranians, well, they understand that there's an election going on. And that just, for me, they're smart guys. They're not, they read the internet. They see what's going on. They got ears everywhere. They know the elections in the United States. They know that Trump is a president another 3.5 years. And then anything could happen. And in fact, I think they probably get involved in trying to sway elections. To get a favorable in there. They would like to see a Democrat in power, actually. They don't have to put up with a strong America. They don't want to. So for him to say that the election means something this year, I think just gives hope to them, even though their infrastructure is shattered. They got people rebelling. I mean, not enough to call it quits, not enough for them to quit. But I don't know how close it is. It's hard to say. Depends on who you listen to. You listen to a lot of Democrats, and they're going to tell you that Iran has never been stronger. They're in the position. United States has never looked weaker. I don't know which shows they're watching. I don't understand how they can say that with a straight face. But that's coming from Democrat leadership, actually. Hakeem Jeffries is at war with Republicans, and that's him stating it. That's not what I get from his actions. That's him actually putting it in writing on billboards and sticking it on the air that he's at war, and he wants to up the energy, up the aggressiveness, and I think I don't think he cares about whether the United States loses to Iran or not if it helps him in his war.
James Pfaff.
Let me take a phone call. Hey, Jim, you're on the air, sir.
Hey, how you doing, Russ?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling. Because I needed some understanding and to figure out how the world works, and you're one of my best outlets on Uh,
This is what I get paid the big money for.
and I heard from your office, and one of the things that they listed as a potential to talk about is redistricting, which is really getting crazy, especially with what happened this weekend. I guess there's a plan amongst Democrats to fire all the Supreme Court justices in Virginia.
Yes, I think suggested by some Michigan professor, University of Michigan professor. It's a really, what it really truly reveals is what I've talked with you about a lot, that, Democrats are seeking to overthrow the American Republic. It's so, because you've got Democrats screaming and yelling all the time. Trump is Hitler. Trump is fascist, trying to take over the country. And then we've got instance after instance after instance on the Democrat side of undermining normal systems to get to their desired outcome. And this is one of them. So the Supreme Court ruled against us. Okay, well, then we're going to fire them all. And then we're going to go at it again and put in a bunch of people that are going to rule the way we want, really upholding that idea of the separation of powers that has helped our country be so prosperous. But they're wanting to do it on the congressional level too. We're going to pack the Supreme Court. There is one proposal amongst Democrats to have 22 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, just to overwhelm the conservatives. And so, listen, the Democrat Party right now has two major problems. First of all, they absolutely realize they cannot win on the national scene consistently with their agenda. And the second problem that they have is that because of knowing that, they are going to twist and turn not just every norm, but obviously the Constitution itself, and even a state constitution, to try to get their will. They bypass the electoral process, either by twisting it or by ignoring it. And they also, they bypass the legislative process because they can't get their ideas into law unless they have a court that they've already twisted to get what they want. So they're really working hard, and have been for decades now, to undermine everything that has kept us a secure country. They don't believe in our security. And I mean, you even got John Fetterman out there, who 93% votes with Democrats. He's out there talking about how communist they've become, how absolutely socialist they are in their orientation. And he was sitting there saying that with Bill Maher shaking his head, yes. I mean, these guys are of the left. They're not conservative in any shape or fashion. Yeah. And they recognize what's going on. Sadly, that institution is so corrupt with these ideas that they're not going to stop, and they've got to be opposed.
Yeah. The anger, though, has leveled up so much with Hakeem Jeffries, and he's at war. He's not backing out. And as we try to tone down the rhetoric after another attempted assassination, he doubles down. How is that affecting him politically? Does it, or does it not matter anymore?
Donald Trump?
No, how does it affect Hakeem Jeffries to continue to double down?
Hakeem Jeffries. Oh, yeah.
To double down.
Listen, it harms them electorally if only Republicans would fight. This is the real battle that's going to be taking place between now and November. With redistricting the way that it has gone, you've got upwards of 10 to 14 seats that on paper are Republican seats added to this election cycle. Okay, so that should be the end of the game right there.
And that's in the House.
And that's in the House, yes. And the Senate's set, obviously, two representatives per state and a certain number that are up every 2 years. So and the Senate, I think, can still truly be held by Republicans. But in the House, you've got these changes taking place that should give Republicans a pretty huge advantage. And you've got Hakeem Jeffries in his doubling down, frankly, angering the American people. I mean, this Virginia thing, the American people in general still have a sense of fairness about them. And when they hear stuff like that, that really does rankle them. And the reason they voted for Abigail Spanberger in Virginia in the numbers that she got voted for was in part because Republicans had a crappy candidate. I mean, Winston Sears is a nice lady, but she sucked as a candidate.
Oh.
But the other reason is because Abigail Spanberger said she wasn't going to do the very things that she's doing now. And that appealed to Virginians, which is something of a purple state. And even though you got a radical leftists in Northern Virginia, and there are a lot of them there, you still generally in Virginia, even amongst Democrats, have more of a Bill Maher attitude or a John Fetterman attitude as opposed to Hakeem Jeffries one. And when Americans see this happening, their present anger at Democrats, and they do hate Democrats. The numbers show that the American people hate Democrats. But you've got a Republican Party that is unwilling to oppose that anyway. And if they would, they're going to have the entire, they'll sweep. They would get more than those 14 seats. They would actually take out many Democrats as well. If they're willing to pass the Save America Act, if they were willing to take Donald Trump and Elon Musk's messaging on Doge and implement it in policy rather than only the limited degree to which Donald Trump can implement it, and they're willing to really go down the path that Americans want, they can sweep in November. And that's really the present problem. And Hakeem Jeffries knows that. Part of the reason Democrats speak so radically is because they know that Republicans are not going to oppose their radical efforts. This is, by the way, why Spencer Pratt running for mayor in Los Angeles has become a national phenomenon. I don't know if Spencer Pratt can win the mayor's race. It's such a Democrat city. There are some people that I would not say are your typical Republicans who think he can, so we'll see if that plays out. But at minimum, what it's doing is it is showing that you can effectively shame Democrats and get a following and get people behind you. And most people don't see in LA, they know Spencer Pratt's a Republican, but he's not being particularly Republican in his approach. He's just calling out the things that are actually wrong rather than making up, fake dummies to put his saber into that no one cares about. So if Republicans could ever get that hard about him, they can sweep Democrats election after election.
His videos have been absolutely awesome. I mean, they have been going viral all over the United States with Pratt. And so did you see the one the unions put out to go against Pratt?
So this is one of the most wonderful things to observe. It's like the unions wrote that expressly for the purpose of getting Spencer Pratt elected.
Correct.
So what they call out here is, and it would reduce union influence, and it would tell homeless people that we're not going to build buildings for you. We're going to make you have to fend for yourself. Like that's literally their message,
right?
And as to why you ought to vote for Karen Bass. And the problem with that is Spencer Pratt is, again, whether he can win or not, I don't know. But he is definitely going to do well in that election because Angelenos are really upset with what's going on. It's not just the Palisade fires, which his story most clearly connects with. It is the homelessness and the crime on the streets. And yeah, I think that one ad that you just discussed, that the unions put out, I think may help him get elected. It's like, did the Babylon Bee or the Onion write this? Because it's so absurd. I mean, it seems like a Spencer Pratt thing that he would put out to shame them. So yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, and he is a paradigm that every Republican candidate around the country should follow. They should understand the issues as well as he does, and many of them don't. Some of them are really stupid, frankly. But they should also be committed to the issues the way that he is. They should have the passion that he has,
yes,
which obviously is related to what happened to him in his beautiful home that he loved getting burned down in Palisades, and that certainly animates much of what he's been doing. But there may not be that story for any individual Republican, but every Republican should be excited about the beauty of what America is, the Constitution as it is. Donald Trump prove that if you love this country, you can actually get elected when there's a lot of hatred coming your way. But Republicans don't get this.
You know,
They're not smart enough.
I saw that video and the one that the unions did, and I just had to stop and think: am I out of touch, or are they out of touch? Does the union realize what they're doing, or am I wrong?
Well, the one thing they're playing into, though, keep in mind, is there are a huge number of union workers in that city who are also voters. So it's not what they're caught up in that video is two problems, and people on both sides of the aisle have this problem. They think that what they live with day to day in government is what everybody else is thinking.
Right.
And that's where this disconnect with the American people tend to come. But they also believe that they have set systems in place in government that will help them get over the top. And people in California, Democrats in California, have reason to believe that because you have so many government employees in that state. I don't know what the actual per capita government employment is there, but it is possibly the highest in the country, if not nearly the highest. Illinois and New York may challenge them, but it's a huge number of people. So they have some reason to believe that'll be effective because of how many people it will bring out to the polls. And an energized voter is better in smaller numbers than unenergized voters in larger numbers. So they're banking on that, and that's why they're doing this, but it is out of touch. And everyone in the United States who sees that commercial is going to know how much that it's going to confirm for them how much they are disgusted by what California has become.
Correct. How much we don't want to be California, how much we don't want to see that.
Yeah.
It's comical, but we'll see what happens with it. On the redistricting, Florida's still going to go ahead with theirs.
Oh, it's done. It's already been signed.
Oh, it has been signed already. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Florida's done. Tennessee is done. I think Alabama is still in process, but it's going to get done apparently.
Okay.
South Carolina seems on the path. Henry McMaster, the governor there, did call a special session, and I think they're going to finish that. That's going to get rid of James Clyburn and the seat that he's been holding, which is one of the most that exemplifies the snake district about more than any other district. Georgia's the one that probably is not going to do anything because Brian Kemp is an absurd Trump derangement syndrome Republican.
Yeah.
And his Secretary of State's no better.
Yeah. What about Thune? Is he going to survive?
If it's up to senators that we elect as Republicans to vote for him to be majority leader and or minority leader if they were to lose the majority, yeah, he's gonna survive. He's not going to get unelected in his state. Now, we ran a lot of ads in this state through the Conservative Caucus to call him out for his unwillingness to pass the Save America Act. We spent a decent amount of money to reveal him to folks in South Dakota. But in reality, if it's up to the people we elect in Washington, D.C., he'll maintain his leadership position. If it were up to the American people, no, I don't think so. They don't respect him. They don't like him. I mean, Mike Johnson, who I still have huge problems with, is definitely doing a better job than John Thune. He was actually willing to move the Save America Act, which took a Senate bill that had been passed and replaced all the language in it to do the voting reforms that the SAVE Act had done, that had been passed at the beginning of 2025 and sent over to the Senate, that Mitch McConnell was blocking in his committee. Mitch McConnell was not allowing that to come to a vote. And finally, Mike Johnson and Republicans in the House took action, and they replaced a Senate bill, which didn't have to go back to a committee because it was already passed, but it was entirely the Save America Act language. So this is all on John Thune. If anyone is upset about the Save America Act, they only have one place to go, and that's John Thune, who's not willing to push his conference in a direction to get that over the hump.
Any hope at all getting that through this year?
If they're willing to put the effort in, absolutely, there's hope. And there are two ways to do it. You can get rid of the filibuster and people are calling for that. Even Mike Lee, and I have deep respect for Mike Lee. I've been with Mike Lee on this. I'm acquainted with Mike, having worked on Capitol Hill. His approach is right. Use the actual filibuster. The 60 vote rule that everyone talks about, that's not the filibuster. That was actually designed in the 1920s as a way to get out of debate when there was a filibuster. Because if you can hold the floor, you can't move the legislation.
Right.
If you can keep the legislative day going, you can hold the floor for as long as you want over long periods of time. But the actual filibuster makes senators work. It makes them have to show up on the floor and hold the floor. And if John Thune were willing, and he runs everything in the Senate, the whole legislature, just like the Speaker of the House, he runs the floor and what's going to be considered. He may not always get the votes to keep that going, but he's the one that sets the agenda. So if you're willing to put that on the floor, keep it on the floor, the actual filibuster could lead to passage here, either by breaking the Democrats and them just giving up, or by getting to a place where you can have that majority vote. That's the filibuster stops the majority vote. But if you get rid of the filibuster itself, that would also get it passed, and he can do any of those. So is there hope? Sure. The lack of hope is not in the process. It's in the man controlling the process and a few of his people like McConnell and Murkowski and some others that are with him on this.
Yeah, I'm surprised about McConnell and stuff. Maybe not. Maybe he's just got TDS. I have no idea.
Mitch McConnell is one of the worst things that ever happened to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
His ruling agenda has always been keep your head low, don't do anything controversial. Obviously, take care of our corporate interests and let's keep our methodology of corporatism. Or as like I just saw, Reason Magazine has a couple comedians that are pretty funny. Or when the Reason Magazine comedian was pointing it out, corporatism, and he says, or if you're really risky, fascism, because really corporatism is on the edge of fascism. There is a fascist tendency, which is worse in the Democrat Party. It's a fascist socialist tendency. The Nazi Party was the National Socialist Party, right? And what Mussolini was pushing in Italy was a socialist. It was a modified socialist effort that he called fascism. So, and before it all got, killing the Jews type, it was an ideology that said, listen, we don't need representative government. We just need government to order society the way it needs to be ordered. Whether you call it socialism or fascism or whatever you call it, Democrats believe in that ideology at its core. Republicans, though, in a more modest sense and in a less broad sense, have been playing this corporatist game where they, and in terms of what we call regulatory capture, in other words, you've captured the regulators to give you benefit in your company. That is a persistent problem in our regulatory structure in Washington, D.C. Republicans have bought into that aspect of it as well. And again, Mitch McConnell played that game. It allowed him to get money because big corporate interests he would take care of at the expense of small business owners. And I mean, remember this immediate expensing of capital investment that came out of the One Big Beautiful Bill was fought hard by many Republicans, because if you allow a small business to thrive, the big businesses don't like that. So anyway, the Republicans play that game. That is the way that Mitch McConnell set it up for his nearly 20 years leading the Senate. And he was fine to be in the minority because they still got their $174,000 a year paycheck. So they were just fine. Yeah. And a few go by the wayside, but that happens. and they usually tried to make it happen to the most conservative ones who they wouldn't support and help an election. And Mitch McConnell was willing to wean those people out of the Senate with persistency to keep these more moderate senators in there who would be closer to doing his bidding. It's one of the reasons the Republican Senate is so blasé today. Mitch McConnell really fed that system.
Wow, unfortunate. The illegitimate Supreme Court, I guess, just recently did that ruling on on racism doesn't fix racism, more racism, and undid the majority minority districts and all that. I am shocked at how much the left is pushing back, almost like they want to pass laws where it's going to legalize racism.
Well, they can, in a sense. Of course, it could be challenged in the court, but they can pass a law to implement majority minority districts. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution allows the Congress to regulate elections, not to run them. That is still a state function, and there's no authority in the Constitution for Congress to run elections. But they have two immense powers related to elections that they can undertake. They can regulate them to go a certain way. This is why the Save America Act is important. The second thing they can do is they get to determine the makeup of their members. And if you get a majority vote in either the House or the Senate, they can expel a member, even a duly elected one. This actually happened.
Oh,
Frank McCloskey had run against, I think his name was David McIntyre, in the very district I'm sitting in right now. I'm in Bloomington, at my house near Bloomington, Indiana. And I think it was in 1978 or 80, I think it was 78, McIntyre had defeated Frank McCloskey by 174 votes. And they would not seat McIntyre. They seated Frank McCloskey, Democrat. And Frank held that seat for a long time until my friend Congressman John Hostetler beat him in the mid-90s. So that has happened. That's a pretty immense power that they have. They do get to determine the makeup of their members. That is in the Constitution as well. So those are two pretty strong powers in elections that Congress has. And it's, again, why we do need Republicans to decide to utilize what is constitutionally available to them. And if you could pass the Save America Act, the moment that Democrats come back with legislation that they're already wanting to push again, the John Lewis Civil Rights Act or Voting Rights Act, which is a radical regulation of our elections in the manner that they are now and expanded. I mean, in a way that would totally destroy elections. So that's on the table for Democrats. Norm Eisen, the big Democrat attorney that's behind a lot of the lawsuits that have changed the way we do elections over the last 20 years, he's already working in that direction. He announced the other day, I saw this video of him, they've got 300 lawsuits they're bringing up post Calais, and Calais is the decision that overturned the use of the requirement of majority minority districts that the Supreme Court just judged on. So they're going to be bringing up lawsuits. They're fighting. They're in this battle.
Oh,
because it's the only way that they win.
I could tell. You even had AOC at a black church this weekend screaming about it, but that now the blacks don't get a vote. It's ridiculously over the top.
Well, Clarence Thomas, in his concurrence, made a very important point, because he made the point that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which is the authority that was used to require these majority minority districts and for the DOJ to run redistricting in the South, that majority minority districts weren't even a part of the Voting Rights Act. What the Voting Rights Act did that was actually very good is it made it a criminal offense for state elected officials to put unnatural barriers against black folks in the Jim Crow South from being able to vote. Now, that was actually a good thing, but this districting thing that has been happening for a long time was never part of what the Voting Rights Act was. That was just a bunch of courts that decided that's what it meant as well. So, listen, it's racist. You know, it's racist to want to do these majority minority districts.
Yeah.
When Steve Cohen, who's going to lose his district in Memphis, a white man in one of these majority minority districts, is a portion of his district is going to be replaced likely by a black female Republican. And they're still screaming about it. It reveals everything about what their motives are. The majority minority district was never, ever about fairness to an African American community that had been abused through Jim Crow over many decades. That's never what it's been about. It's all been about Democrat districts. That's really what it is.
I think that's obvious. Tell me about Brazil. And I got a note from your office about the meeting with Lula and Trump from Brazil. What significance can we look at that?
I do not know yet what was discussed in that private meeting.
Okay.
What I do know is Lula da Silva refused to do the typical Oval Office gaggle with reporters that happens in front of, where Trump or the president and a leader of another country are sitting on a chair there by the fireplace,
right,
taking questions and talking. He refused to do that. That indicates to me that some serious discussion took place in that private meeting, as it should. Because a lot of people may not be aware of the fact that Lula da Silva, with Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez, who eventually became leader of Venezuela and dictator, frankly, they founded an organization called the São Paulo Forum, which, or as they say in Portuguese, Fora de São Paulo, that was founded in 1990 to help advance communism in Central and South America, or in the Americas in general, frankly, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Knowing that they weren't going to get any help from Russia anymore, they decided to build an organization to do things on their own. Lula da Silva is a communist. His party in Brazil is very communist. And he had close ties. He has close ties with Russia. He has close ties with Iran that he had developed. That ship that notably got blown out of the water in that one video during the Iran war, that had been on numerous occasions in Brazilian ports because Lula had a close relationship with Iran. He is a scoundrel. He came into office in 2022. Again, he had been president before. After he stopped being president, he went to jail and got a sentence for 20 years for massive corruption. It's called the car wash scandal down there. And he was in prison, and the current Supreme Court Chief Justice, Alexandre de Moraes, who is notable for trying to sanction Elon Musk and X and to make them comply with his, frankly, censorship regime. Moraes brought, under very suspicious auspices, brought Lula out of prison to run against Jair Bolsonaro in 2022. And I believe that election was stolen. I believe he's an illegitimate president. I think it's very real. They would not allow paper backup of their computer voting systems is just one key indication, amongst other things. They changed that. And he has been on a tear to implement a further censorship regime with the help of the Supreme Court down there. And this is a key Monroe Doctrine issue, I think, for us. Jair Bolsonaro, who they threw in prison in a sham trial, saying that he was trying to foment a coup after the 2022 election results. They threw Bolsonaro in prison recently. His son Flavio is running for president and is defeating Lula in the polls, and they've begun criminal actions trying to take out Flavio Bolsonaro. It's a real problem down in Brazil. I know the Bolsonaro family. I know many congressmen down there. I've been deeply involved in this issue. Also, some media people, conservative media people who are in exile here in the United States right now because they would be arrested and thrown in jail if they went back. Wow. One of them is a dear close friend of mine. This is a serious issue because Brazil is a huge country. There are 2/3 the size of the United States with 220 plus million people with a decent sized economy. There is oil exploration that happens there. It's not as big as Venezuela, but it's not insignificant either. And if you could get Brazil to be as free as Argentina has become under Javier Milei, you can have a real sense of stability here in the Western Hemisphere that would be profoundly positive for people in all these countries. And so Lula is behind trying to, keep censorship going in Brazil, and he has got a massive bit of regulation and tax structure that's been happening there. In other words, he's doing what Democrats hope to do in the United States. And so I do believe that Trump probably had a really serious conversation with him. Marco Rubio's been on this issue even when he was a senator. So I presume that he got a bit waylaid. Well, I'll find out more details soon.
Good.
But right now, we need Brazil to go conservative again and get away from this socialist tendency that it's had in recent years. And that it's had for a lot of its history.
I would assume they had some conversations about Cuba, but nothing's come out about that. But
well, don't forget, he's got close ties to Cuba.
Right.
Fidel Castro and him, as I mentioned earlier, worked very hard to advance communism in the region for decades before he became president in the early 2000s in Brazil. And they have a plan and a design. And I just want to emphasize, it's the same plan and design that Democrats have. This is why I say the Democrat Party is not an American party. They're a Maoist communist party that is seeking to have total control over our electoral process and over our governing process. They want absolute power. This is against the ideas that this country was founded on, where you would have the ability of the American people to express what they want done and to limit the government so that Americans can live their lives and in an unobstructed way with free and fair courts and with the protection of the military. And that's really what the founding fathers wanted and no more. So we really do have a lot of work to do here in this country to oppose these things. But Donald Trump's got his eye on these things happening around the world. And Marco Rubio has been a pretty darn good Secretary of State to help enforce all that.
He's been fun to watch. On the Iranian conflict, how come nobody tells Mark Kelly what our goals are?
Mark Kelly knows what our goals are. He just doesn't support them. And he is apparently in trouble. I'm still checking out the details, but there are credible people saying that he revealed classified information that he was briefed on as a member of Congress. And if that's the case, combined with the fact that he, as a former military officer, he still is subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I'd say he's potentially a worse problem now than when he was trying to foment a coup amongst military enlisted people to disobey the orders of Donald Trump. So this is pretty serious in my mind, and now would be the time to, if this is actually what he did, I don't know for a fact, but if he did reveal classified information, that should be seriously dealt with. He has no immunity as a member of Congress for breaking the law.
He seems so bolden now. I mean, he just will attack you on X real quick, attack Hegseth, attack Trump. He's just he cares nothing about the country dilemma right now as much as his personal power gain.
Well, he like many politicians.
Yeah, like
has
many
been about
politicians.
Personal power. I mean, listen, we have this problem in the Republican Party. Just John Thune is a great example. Mitch McConnell's an example. I'm not saying that Republicans are equally as bad as Democrats. I'm just saying that they fall into the category of people that Ronald Reagan described as being part of the world's second oldest profession and having many of the characteristics of the world's oldest profession. And for those who don't know, the saying goes that prostitution is the world's oldest profession. There is a huge issue with the corrupting influence of mankind in politics. You want limited government because, as I say many times, 6,000 years of recorded human history proves the moral depravity of man. Like, there are some people that are good, but that's in relative terms to other human beings. The entire human race is flawed. This is what the founding fathers knew. This is why they wanted to develop a government that they did. And it's why George Mason of Virginia refused to sign on even to the Constitution, because he thought that it gave too much power to government. This is how serious these guys were in their concern about what government could do, because they had seen throughout history, as we all have, that when you give people power, the tendency is not for them to use it properly. The Cincinnatises of the world are rare. The common is those who abuse it. And so if you limit what they can do, then you can limit their effect. And if you can make them accountable to elections, then you can limit their effect even further. This is what the founding fathers had hoped we'd be able to do well, and we did do well for most of our history, and we're getting challenged to break away from in the present day.
If I was going to go on Polymart and bet for the last day of the Iran conflict, what day are we going to finish that thing?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure I would precisely know how to judge that. If I were to guess, I mean, I think well, first of all, in effect, it's going to be indefinite all the way through November. Even if there's some degree of resolution, there's going to have to be some form of maintained engagement in what's going on.
Okay.
To get an actual deal, though, I don't see that happening any more quickly than a month from now, because every bit of progress is the same as it always is with the Iranians. They will play the okay, we'll talk, and then they don't want to talk.
Yeah.
They just want to keep things going. They're as aware of our electoral calendar as anyone else is. I mean, that's their whole game is politics. They epitomize the very worst aspects of politics. It's the same basic human problem that causes them to be as violent and as deep a liars as they are, with an attempt to destroy that which is good, as politicians generally do, typically in the West, in a less violent, less outrageous manner. But it's the same motivation. So they do want to do us harm. They are still out on their jihad, so to speak, against the United States. Nothing has changed in that regard.
Yeah.
The question is, what are we going to do about it? And Donald Trump's going to handle it better than anyone else that I can imagine, but I don't see anything coming before a month. I'd be very pleased if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything coming in the way of agreement.
I think some of our so-called NATO allies are starting to soften a little bit, and I think France is even sending an aircraft carrier.
They're going to do as much as they need to do, particularly after Keir Starmer took such a butt whooping in elections last week. I mean, if for people that may not be aware, they had local elections in Great Britain, and Nigel Farage's Reform Party added 1,400 seats in local councils and districts and mayors and so forth. And a similar amount were lost by the Labour Party after they had a sweeping election, bringing Keir Starmer in. They had a sweeping local election push after Keir Starmer became prime minister. Everybody else in Europe is seeing this. They're seeing that the European Parliament, in a shocking move to globalists, voted overwhelmingly to stop the whole immigration debacle that these World Economic Affairs idiots in the European Union had done. The signs are out there, and they know that Donald Trump is disengaging more with NATO, although it's not a substantial disengagement. So let's not fool ourselves, but he's trying to give them little messages.
Yeah.
They're going to take whatever effort they can to pretend like that they're finally coming on board. And Donald Trump, frankly, is doing the right thing, saying, yeah, no, I don't need your help.
Yeah.
And by the way, and they may ignore that and come and bring the help. And that also would be to Donald Trump's advantage because if they do it in shame and then end up doing it somewhat effectively, and every military in Europe is a capable military. They're just not large enough, and they're not willing to defend themselves. But they all have long traditions of military capabilities. If they did come in and help out in the Persian Gulf, it could get resolved. The combination of American power there and European powers, maybe even Asian ones that would come over to help, you could have that thing shut down quickly. None of them want to do it because it's in their interest to have the kind of chaos that's there. I mean, politicians love chaos. They thrive on chaos.
Yeah.
They're benefited from chaos. That's what benefits a politician. If it's boring and everything's fine, then who needs the politician, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you see this kind of back and forth so often.
Do you ever see us putting actual troops into Iran?
Well, I don't know that this will happen, but I don't think that Donald Trump's going to do that as a major land engagement with troops on the ground. I could see him, though, and it would frustrate and even anger a lot of people. I could see him putting troops on Karg Island, which is the major oil, processing and shipment facility that 90% of Iran's oil goes through, and it's off in the upper part of the Persian Gulf, north of the Strait of Hormuz by some 100 miles or more, 200 miles maybe. But that is a very strategic piece of land for Iran, and if troops could control that island, which I am told has problems like booby traps and some other things that could be really challenging for a ground force to go to. But I could see that maybe happening. But going ground troops into Iran, I don't think Donald Trump's going to do that.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to wait and find a way to finish this off and by other means.
I hope you're right. I agree with you. But the oil they have no capacity to store it anymore. I understand there's been big oil slicks now, like they're dumping it possibly.
I have seen some of those satellite images of oil slicks. I don't know the actual extent of it, and I'm not even necessarily convinced that what people are telling us about that storage capacity is entirely accurate. There's probably some accuracy to it, but I don't know how extensive it actually is. But yes, we have seen these satellite images of oil being dumped off in an environmentally unfriendly way. I might have if that doesn't get Democrats on board with Donald Trump, I don't know what could. But they're in a world of hurt. There's no doubt about it. And Donald Trump knows that. And I think he's willing to let that play out, whatever the result of the November elections are, because I think he believes that he's doing something existentially important as it relates to Iran. And I do believe that his number one goal is to deal with the nuclear weapons. If he could have the ability to put people into Iran at Iran's agreement to take out all of the nuclear dust, as they're calling it, whatever's left over from the attacks that Trump did in the summer of 2025 that shut down, at least temporarily, their nuclear enrichment capability. If he could get all of that material out of there, and if he could have free reign to go into every other facility and to do a deep dive to make sure there's nothing else going on there, I think he would consider that a win, and he would pull American troops in their current force out of the region, leaving just a smaller force, and then move on to something else. I think that's truly in his heart, and that's his goal. I think we have to be confident of that.
How big a threat to Iran is the internal fights of people wanting to have a coup or take over that regime?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
I mean, you cannot get an effective opposition force to the current Iranian regime unless you provide military help of some sort. If that's just supplying the Kurds, for example, which was an early discussion that they might do. There is a Kurdish population in the north of Iran, and there are Kurds in the north of Iraq that would be willing to help support that if they had the means to do so. I mean, it'd have to be something like that that would take down this regime.
I don't know.
The only other thing is for them to break.
I don't know if the Kurds are that friendly with us, especially in Iraq.
No, they're very friendly with us, but they also have their own interests. Listen, the Kurdish population in both Iran and Iraq are very friendly with the United States. They are Muslim in their religion, there's no doubt, and that has its risks, I guess, or at least we can perceive some risks. But the Kurdish population is very thankful to us because with our help and support of them, both during the Iraq War and since, is such that they've kept Turkey at bay from causing them harm. And Turkey is a mortal enemy to the Kurds in northern Iraq. Turkey has been kept at bay from causing them harm. I mean, I'm sure they meddle in various ways that would take too long to describe. But, they've kept them at bay. And we did utilize them as a military force during the Iraq War. By the way, I'm totally against the Iraq War. I'm just stating facts here.
Okay.
So they were liberated from major harms that Saddam Hussein was causing them in Iraq. So no, they're friendly with us, but they do have their own goal. They really do want their own country. They would have no problem if they could make it happen, breaking off from Iraq and having their own, Kurdistan.
Mm-hmm.
That would please them. So you always have to be careful of these things, when you're dealing with folks. But they are friendly with us. There's no reason to think they're not.
Well, I know they're having a lot of internal fights, and cities are taking over. But it's brutal there. It's very brutal. It would be very scary.
Oh yeah. And I mean, their inflation is going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what their supply chain looks like. There are rail systems that come in from the north into Iran that can be fed through both Russia and from China. I presume some stuff's getting in from outside the country, but there's a lot that's not. This blockade is having an effect on them. I don't know the actual depth of it, but it is very real, and they are having major problems with it.
Yeah, they're more willing to put up with punishment than we are, I guess. They're not as soft.
Well, I would say so. They're definitely more willing to put up with punishment than Republicans are.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, if Republicans had that same sort of fervor for what's good, this country would be doing great. I have to tell you, I'll always work in Republican politics only because that's the only place to really work effectively in anything I can do. But what's ineffective about it is I'm just, both parties in my mind are useless. Democrats for evil, Republicans because they're cowards, at least at the leadership level. Republican voters are fantastic. I mean, your general people who support the Republican Party across the country are largely patriots who really care about this country and want good things to happen and want to just live their lives too. Democrats are the protest class.
Yeah.
They pay their protesters even to the tune of billions of dollars, literally. I'm not exaggerating to say that. Both through government money and private money. And they're willing to protest to get a Bolshevik-style overthrow of the American government. That is what they want. Whereas Republicans, by and large, and independents are people that are just trying to live their life every day, and they want to get serious about what's happening in elections and in government, but they also just want to be able to go home to their families or go home to whatever makes them happy and get away from politics if they can. And this is why Republicans can have, from time to time, problems having motivated voters, because those voters will throw their hands up in the air with Republicans and won't do anything, and they don't see any way to take it on themselves. They do from time to time, though. The Tea Party movement and Donald Trump's election proved that, but not consistently always.
Yeah, we need a lot more Spencer Pratts out there, I guess.
We do.
Absolutely.
And by the way, he may not be as conservative as I like.
Yeah.
But the thing that's important about him is, first of all, he's willing to run as a Republican in Los Angeles. And there have been Republican mayors in Los Angeles. Like, this is not a scenario that is impossible to conceive that he does win the mayor's office. I'm not predicting it, but it could happen. But there have been Republican mayors there, but he's willing to run as a Republican, and he's willing to talk about the things that are actually important to voters. And Republicans in general don't do that. They have other things that are important to them. This is why it's hard for them to connect into the Black community or into the Hispanic community. We're making inroads in the Hispanic community in the Republican Party, but that's in part because they're motivated on their own, and they know Democrats are doing stupid things with wanton immigration coming into the country. But the Republican leadership doesn't know how to connect with these people because their interests aren't aligned with them. Spencer Pratt's interests are aligned with the people of Los Angeles. Angelenos are definitely hearing his message and accepting it. How they vote is another matter, because some people just vote their party and don't even think through it. But they definitely are impacted by what he's saying, without a doubt. Republicans, if they just take a little bit of that playbook and get serious about it and honest about it, they could have consistent electoral success in this country, everywhere, not just Republican states, but Democrat states even.
Well, Jim Pfaff, I've got to run, but thank you so much. The Conservative Caucus is it .com or .org?
.com. You can really
.com.
do either. We make sure that goes there.
Oh,
theconservativecaucus.com.
Conservativecaucus.com. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate your insight.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And of course, that was Jim Pfaff with the Conservative Union Caucus. Theconservativecaucus.com. I have to take a break, and I will be right back. If I can find this, we'll be right back.
Gilbert.
Hello?
Mr. Gilbert, good morning.
Hey, how you doing, Russ?
I'm doing well.
Pretty good. Hey, Russ, I want to advertise some stuff. We have our great Yuma County Sheriff showing up at our meeting this Saturday.
Okay.
And we're going to be at Izzy's Diner. And actually, I want to introduce you to Olivia, who is co-owner, co-boss of Izzy's. Izzy's, this is Russ Clark. This is Izzy.
Well, good morning.
Hi, Russ.
How are you?
Amazing. How are you, Russ?
I'm doing well. How are things at Izzy's? You guys are still busy? I mean, it's getting hot outside.
We've been slowing down a little bit, but nothing too crazy yet.
Does Gilbert keep you busy?
Oh, always.
All
Always
right.
he does.
As long as he does that. Good to have you.
Anyway, this is coming Saturday.
Yeah.
We have Leon Wilmot, our great sheriff, will be here at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
at Izzy Diners, 11375 South Foothills Boulevard, Yuma, Arizona. We ask you to come early if you want breakfast. We have a lot of things going on. What we need is a great, strong sheriff to lead Yuma to where it needs to be. You know that. You've been around long enough.
Yeah, Leon's been doing a great job as a sheriff. We appreciate him greatly.
Yeah. Yep. So bring your friends and your ideas the way that we, the people, can help implement America's first agenda. Elect conservative.
And that's this coming Saturday.
This coming Saturday, $800, 8 o'clock.
All right.
We want everybody. Bring your questions. You know the sheriff, he doesn't hesitate. He's going to answer your question whether you like his answer or not. It's going to be answered.
He's pretty straightforward, and you know where he stands. There's no question.
Oh, yeah. And I still got my get out of out of card, get out of jail card. So
No,
I'm
you
okay.
don't. You just got to run. All sheriff will ever offer you, like he offers me, is, man, don't worry about it. If you get in trouble, I'll give you a room with a window, which I found
Yeah,
out they all
yeah.
have windows. So, okay.
They all have windows, but the third floor is the best one.
Is
You
it?
can see views.
I don't ever want to figure it out.
And drivers, be careful out there. There are a lot of crazy drivers out here in the foothills. We had two major accidents on Foothills Boulevard. Excuse me, Fortuna Boulevard. A car went up the ramp or the edge of the freeway. There's a lot of dumb people driving.
What, went up the wrong way or something?
No, he just hit another car, T-boned.
Oh, wow.
And you know,
Okay.
things happen.
Not
And
good.
again, this Saturday, 8 o'clock at Izzy's, the sheriff. Bring your friends, bring your partners.
You got-
Hey, you could even come, Russ.
I'll take a look. All right, buddy. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Mr. Gilbert. Phone lines are open. 928-941-0304. Appreciate you, Gilbert. And Jim Pfaff for 50 minutes with me. That's great. It's nice he has the time. And he's the national chair of the Conservative Caucus. So a lot of connections we wouldn't have otherwise. It's nice of him to bring that to Yuma. There's something that Trump is doing, and I think most of you heard it. You know, he's kind of upset with NATO. He's upset with a lot of the European countries that haven't come to the aid of Iran, and he says it's time to pull the troops out of Germany, or some of them. He mentioned 5,000. That's not really new. I mean, he mentioned that during his first term. I don't know if you know that, but in his first term, he wanted to pull the troops out of Germany. Not all of them, but a lot of it, and that's part of our commitment after World War II. Obviously, that country was completely devastated. It worried about Russia, Soviet Union trying to take over all of Europe after Germany and all that. And I guess part of that whole NATO to defend and support those military bases in Germany have stuck around. And there's over 33,000 troops still that are there, along with all the goodies that go with it. Well, they said the Pentagon announced Friday that it plans to remove 5,000 troops from Germany within 6 to 12 months to start off with. And it's expected, I guess Pentagon's not saying this directly, but maybe indirectly, it's expected it's going to be in Vilsic based 2nd Cavalry Regiment, which currently has, let me see, it's 45, I think it's 4,500 troops. Yeah, 4,500. According to Vilsic Mayor, the Thorsten Gradler, he said the withdrawal of troops would devastate the local economy and strike to the heart of the town's identity. About 4,500 soldiers, along with hundreds of spouses and children, are based in Vilsic. It's a tiny garrison town which has a population of 6,500 Germans. So sounds like the U.S. military probably outnumbers the Germans. I mean, 4,500 soldiers, but when you put wives and children in there, probably going to be more than the town has on its own. But he's worried about it. He says, you can imagine that such a scenario would mean for our region. Overall, the U.S. presence delivers a roughly $800 million boost annually. That's a big boost. While the loss of the regiment wouldn't end that entirely, given other units and missions in Bavaria, it would still deliver a blow. Trump had planned to cancel that 2nd Cavalry Regiment. His first term, it was Joe Biden who canceled it. Well, the mayor there is still hopeful. I guess he's another town that hosts an Army training center. It's Hofels, Hofels. Probably butchered that name completely, but he said no one from the U.S. or German government has said anything to him about the possible loss of U.S. troops. He says for 75 years we've been living in great relationships with the Americans that are being stationed here. While the departure of the second CAV would be a blow to the region and complicate U.S. Army, Europe, and African missions and NATO eastern flank, some analysts and officials argue that the loss of long-range fires unit would have larger strategic consequences. The 3rd Battalion, 12th Field Artillery Regiment, based in Fort Drum, New York, was intended to bring Tomahawks and other long-range weaponry to Germany as a stopgap while Berlin develops its own system. You hear that? I mean, they were counting on the United States because Germany doesn't have their own system to take care of it. They don't. And that's been one of Trump's big complaints. These European countries are looking for the American taxpayers to pay for everything. And then not there when we need them, and not help us with tariffs and other stuff. I mean, they out tariff us. They block our goods and services and promote their own to be sold in the United States, and they leech onto us. The decision to withhold the unit reinforcements needed the United States, European allies to move faster in developing our own military capabilities. Well, good. You need to develop your own capabilities. We've been asking for that forever. I say forever, since Trump in 2016. That you're not even living up to your commitments to NATO. Except Poland. I think Poland does, Europe. For this, we need our own European competencies and structures, and in the area of defense. See that and apparently other security analysts have supported that. All those says without U.S. support, allies in Europe lack the kind of deep strike capability needed to counter Russia's ability to strike across vast distances. So maybe this is a good time. Maybe Russia's been challenged enough right now in Ukraine. They don't have the energy to take on Europe. Maybe it's a good time for U.S. to pull out, let them start building Europe. Same time Russia starts building back. I mean, it should be a European effort. And remember, it wasn't that long ago, Europe was canceling a lot of their own energy deals so they could buy energy from Russia. Completely dependent on Russia, pipelining to Russia, and ignoring energy from the United States. Well, it looks like it's changing for real. This expert with the European Council of Foreign Relations said Europeans must redouble their efforts to acquire sovereign long-range weapons, strike drones, which Europeans are beginning to introduce into their armed forces, augment the tactical fight, but they lack the speed, range, and punch of reliability to deliver damage across large or hardened targets at distances beyond around 500 kilometers. It's not that far. Meanwhile, Germany is unlikely to simply procure Tomahawks from the U.S. because American missile stockpiles have been stretched thin by the conflict in Iran. I think we're still selling them. I don't know to who and how many, but that's still out there. But Germany needs to come to grips with taking care of their own country, as well as much of Europe. And I think that's something Jim Pfaff said, that Iranian war, if Europe would get behind and join into that, it would come to closure much more quickly. I mean, they could offer a lot. As he said, they all have capable military. They're just not very large. But combined with Israel and with the United States, it would be an extra punch that would probably cause a quicker resolution to this conflict. And they're the ones that are paying most the price. The Europeans are. They're getting more oil from there than we are. You know, we're not as dependent as everyone else. In fact, we're independent on energy. But somehow it hasn't spooled up in that way yet. But it looks like people are starting to pay attention. Like I said, the French apparently have a aircraft carrier hidden that way. I don't know how many aircraft carriers France has. They're sending one. That's either all of them that they have or half, I'm sure. Let me ask how many aircraft carriers. Let's say France One. That's it. It was one. I didn't know if it was one or two. Charles de Gaulle. It's the flagship of the French Navy. It's the only aircraft carrier. We could kind of spoil it because we got a dozen of them, or 11, I guess, soon to be a dozen. And probably a lot more capable than the Charles de Gaulle, but it's all welcome for sure. They're all effective, with no question. Let's see. Yes. Question. Does the caller remember the U.S. abandoned the Kurds in Syria? They allowed Turkey to attack the Kurds. Why should they trust us? This happened in 2019 under Trump. I don't remember. Not sure, but the National Defense Authorization Act 2026 will make it difficult for Trump to lower troop levels in Germany or in Europe as a whole without Congress backing it. Probably won't happen. The Senate won't have the votes at the moment, and less likely in January. Really? I would hope that they would have the votes. It's ridiculous for us to keep supplying that part of the world with everything and getting nothing in return. It's kind of remarkable. Well, how many of you heard of Buc-ee's? Yeah, Buc-ee's. It's a gas station. I've heard about it a couple of years ago. I've never been to one. It's a Texas-based gas station. They're putting one in Arizona. That's why I bring it up. And I'm going to go see it. It's not in Yuma. It's going to be in Phoenix. We're not going to get it in Yuma. But it's a standout. It's kind of different. It's going to be in Goodyear at Interstate 10 and Boulevard Avenue. I don't know exactly where that is, but I could find it. It's going to open up June 22nd. It's going to be open on June 22nd. Next time I go to Phoenix, I'm going to pay it a visit and see what it's all about. It's 74,000 square foot gas station. Yeah. 74,000 square foot. To put that into perspective, if you ever been to the Fry's on 4th Avenue and 24th Street, it's a pretty popular Fry's store here. It's 36,000 square foot, the Fry's store. So this is 74,000. The Fry's out in the foothills, which is a behemoth. It's big. It's kind of like a Walmart. That's 104,000. So this is only 3/4. This gas station is 3/4 the size of the biggest Walmart in Yuma County. It's 3/4 the size. Yeah, it's a Texas base. They've been very popular. They currently have 55 locations in 12 states. And they want to expand. They're expanding into 20 states, or that's successful. This big gas station is that successful. It's going to be 74,000 feet. And I didn't mention it's going to have 120 fueling positions. I don't know what the Fry's has out in the foothills, but it's like a dozen maybe. Might have a dozen stations, fueling stations. This one's going to have 10 times that. Well, they're going to open Arizona and Arkansas this year soon. And then they're going to go to Wisconsin, Louisiana, Kansas, North Carolina. And Texas, they're opening their 37th one in Texas very shortly. And it doesn't say in this article, I'm just amazed by the size and the success of a store that's a gas station doing this. But they have a lot of grocery type items that are unique to just Buc-ee's. I can't even remember what they all are. I've read a story on it before a few years ago about the people that go to Buc-ee's because they want some specialized products. Kind of amazing. And there's things that Buc-ee's sells that no one else has. I don't even remember what it was anymore. What food items and stuff that they have in there that does that. But all these stores are huge. I think the smallest one they're going to be opening, because they list the square footage on all of them. They had one small one. I can't see it here now. It was more like 60 or 72,000 square foot instead of 74. But they're looking to go on a real spending spree. I mean, they're mentioning Georgia, Kentucky. They have plans to go national. Looks like. I mean, we live in times when you hear all the time of locations closing, locations downsizing, businesses going out of business, all those kind of things, and everyone wonders what happens. And then you see this business that's willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting in these locations, and must be just booming to be able to. One of my listeners says they have barbecue sandwiches, so obviously you've been out of Arizona to go see them because they don't have one in Arizona. I'll be going. I'll take my wife. We'll go on a date to Buc-ee's just so I can see what it's all about. So you can do that sometime in June. Probably going to be so busy initially. It wouldn't be a good idea to go in June. Wait until it cools off a little bit, maybe, and then we'll go. With Jim Pfaff from the Conservative Caucus this morning, we talk a lot about concerns and dangers and enemies and problems that we've got in the world and at home. China, we didn't mention at all, but I got a story here on China I want to talk about. Now, China is interesting. Now, Trump is going to China this week, I think. He was supposed to go a few weeks ago, but canceled. I think it was because of the Iranian thing going on. He canceled. And, of course, China wants that thing over. They want the oil. They want the stuff out of there. And they have an interest in growing, and this thing is hurting them as much as anybody. I would imagine we would partner with China in some way of getting this thing to an end, but China is a friend of Iran. I imagine diplomatically they're possibly trying something. Who knows? Trump will find out, I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to be part of it. But this article I'm reading in the threat from China has to do with undersea cable. We have thousands and thousands of miles of undersea cable all over the world. Cable for communications cable. It runs the world. The international internet, trading, communications, everything. It's not all satellite. I mean, if Elon Musk has anything to do with it, it will be maybe. But right now, cable runs the world. And we connect everywhere. Everywhere connects to us. It's a huge thing. It's a huge system. According to this article, they carry 99% of global data. 99%. And it supports up to $10 trillion a day in financial transactions. So all that buying, selling, and moving merchandise around the world, it's all connected to cable. 1%, maybe that's the satellite system. I have no idea. Andrew Badger, he's the strategic officer of the Coalition Systems, a defense tech startup. And he's speaking now. He's talking as Donald Trump is getting ready to meet with Chairman Xi, because China has been targeting undersea cables to cut them. Now, we knew Russia was doing it. Russia's been doing it by dragging anchors across doing that like in Europe and stuff, in those areas, and disrupting Finland, Sweden, and that area. I know most recently, where I think they boarded a boat that was doing it. One of them did recently. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that happened less than a year ago. But China has been doing this, according to Andrew Barger. It says America depends on the fragile nervous system of subsea cables for modern life. And he's a former Pentagon official. And he warns that U.S. adversaries seek to turn the bottom of the ocean into a battlefield. The asymmetric threat, China and Russia are devoting far more resources to attacking undersea infrastructure than the U.S. or its allies are to defending it. They've identified one of our greatest vulnerabilities, that we haven't caught up. A coordinated strike on American undersea infrastructure could fundamentally disrupt our way of life. The internet, banking, energy markets, military communications all run through these cables. The dollar cost is almost incalculable, and the real damage would be the chaos and political instability that would follow. The Senate Republican whip, John Brasaro, out of Wyoming, along with Jan Shahin, introduced a bipartisan strategic subsea cables act of 2026. I didn't know such a thing existed, to strengthen the security and resilience of critical undersea infrastructure. Undersea cables are important for a variety of reasons. They carry 99% of the world's internet traffic. They also support $10 trillion in financial transactions. I mean, they're just regurgitating what I already said. China's Ministry of Natural Resources confirmed a successful deep-sea mission testing an advanced electrohydrostatic actuator capable of slicing through armored submarine cables at depths of 3,500 meters. That's over a mile. So they're bragging about it. I mean, they're letting us know they've got it. And it's raising concerns, obviously. But it's actually a new form of warfare to confuse and cut off communications. Andrew Badger, the strategy officer, says this is hybrid warfare in its purest form, designed to weaken the adversary below the threshold of declaring war. Incidents such as anchor dragging across the seabed can provide plausible deniability, and I know Moscow's been doing that. Cables give Beijing and Moscow the ability to inflict devastating economic chaos almost at will. This gives both nations tremendous strategic leverage over the United States. China could also potentially target American undersea cables as a deterrent to U.S. engagement in Taiwan. Beijing could simultaneously target cables landing in the U.S., not to win militarily, but with the goal of breaking the American public's will to intervene in Taiwan. See, with the growth of AI means rising capacity requirements on submarine cables. Not all recent cable damage incidents could be attributed to foreign adversaries. They estimate 150 to 200 cables breaks occur per year around the globe, most of them accidents. And I would imagine we don't feel it or know it. I imagine there's so many cables. I mean, there's enough of them to, just like there is when power cables go down, power's just rerouted until they get it fixed. And I'm assuming they can do the same, assuming there's cables left to do that with. Hopefully they get this figured out. I don't know how you protect against it. I don't know. Other than we have great undersea drones now, apparently we got autonomous undersea drones that can loiter and do things, lay at the bottom and wait for action or something, and maybe detect a cutter coming or something like that. I would assume those things are well within reach of manufacture if they haven't been manufactured yet. We have no idea, but the security of those cables, obviously, big importance to our country as well as every other country. Just Iran, I know we talked about it with Jim a little bit, but nobody knows where it is right now. I mean, except Trump and the Iranians, I think. But we just know that there's a ceasefire, even though kinetic attacks are still happening. I guess in a limited fashion of some kind that they justify as not a break of the ceasefire yet, which is really odd. really weird. We're playing a different game. Now, Iran put a proposal in the other day, and as you know, Iran's not always going to be truth tellers, and they're going to pause and delay and misinformation, whatever they do, to drag things out till you just become crazy enough just to go along with whatever they say. At least that's the impression that everybody gives on dealing with Iran. They're the best stallers, the best fakers, the best liars of all of it. I mean, they're the best negotiators for that reason. Trump seems to be matching them in frustration, because I know people in the United States are frustrated with Trump as he's working through this. On Truth Social, Trump responded to the latest proposal that Iran put out. He says, I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable, all caps. He said that on Truth Social, I guess, and it was delivered to him through Pakistan mediators. But I don't think anyone's expecting anything. I don't think Trump's really expecting anything. I don't know. I got a note from Edward this morning that he's getting sore neck from all the oil prices going up and down and up and down. You know, the oil it keeps moving because there's hope that it's going to end and it doesn't end. Then there's hope it's going to end and it doesn't end, that kind of stuff. So it goes below 100, over 100, below 100, under 100. Right now, I think it went back down below, like somebody thinks something's happening. You see oil prices today. Yeah, it's $80 for crude oil futures. I don't know if that's the same thing. I think crude oil prices today, $97.60 for Brent crude's at 103, so not a lot of movement. The futures are at $80. I guess that means they expect it to go down in the future. They're already bidding on that, already filling orders for the futures. The oil slick, I mentioned it briefly with Jim. There was some questions on whether Iran was going to have to shut down all of its oil pumping stations because there's no place to pump it. Storage. Jim kind of was not sure if that's all true, but that's what I've been reading many places. And now there's some oil slicks out there, and there was always a fear that Iran's just going to start dumping it into the ocean because they don't want to shut them down. Shutting them down could cause a potential problem, according to many people in the industry, because these pumps haven't been shut off in so many decades. If they do, when you restart them, they may not have the same volume. Some of that may adjust or clog or change when you take the pressure out, and you may not get the same yields if you take that, and it would cost billions of dollars, or you have to rework the line, redrill a new hole. I don't know, not in the industry, but that's the stuff I'm just relaying. But they say it could reduce 20% of their daily deal. Now 20% of what they put out is big money. That's big. So there's questions on whether they're just dumping it into the water to make room so they don't have to turn it off. That's possible. They're looking into it, apparently. United Nations and all those people are looking into it. But a UN official said we should worry about the cause of the slick and monitor things carefully to see if there are new developments. If the slick gets bigger, we should be seriously worried about there being a leakage of aging infrastructure. Okay. Moving away towards the southwest into the islands. And they're worried it's going to go into the Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabian waters, and may ruin a lot of their coastlines and stuff. And UN officials warned Sunday that oil spills in the region could trigger environmental catastrophe and the ongoing crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is like 100 miles away or better than the Karg Island where this is supposed to be happening. And that's and so the UN has given them a pass a little bit, saying it's probably an aging pipe situation, which if that was the case, I would think they would be out there talking about it. They're still operating those things. They're still, I'm sure, technicians working on that kind of stuff. Alaska, for you friends in Alaska, for you that have traveled there and done that, apparently there's a Uki Ogvuk. It's the name of his town in Alaska. It just saw its last sunrise for a while. Won't see a sunrise again for 84 days. It's going to be constant sun for 84 days. It used to be known as Barrow. That's a little easier to say. It used to be Barrow, Alaska. They changed it to probably a native name. I've never visited. I've had people go to Anchorage, live in Anchorage, and stuff like that have to experience that. Anchorage gets the same thing, just not as many days of it. They get that, but 84 days, they don't get that. Right now, Anchorage has experienced 16 to 19 hours of daylight each day. And here's what it does for the locals. They push outdoor activities such as gardening, hiking, and fishing into the later part of the day. I guess you can go all day. You get up to 19 hours. I think a lot. Anchorage eventually gets some days where it's 24 hours. It does. But Fairbanks gets 70 days in Fairbanks for that. That would be an experience. I guess if you live there, you just get used to it. This is as the Earth changes on its axis and stuff and exposes that part. Of course, there's a payback. Yeah, when it changes the other way, you get a lot of dark. You get 64 days of darkness in the town formerly known as Barrow. 64 days of darkness, 84 days of nothing but light. That would be odd. Apparently, it gets very cold when it's 64 days of dark. Nothing warms up. I don't know what you do then. It's not late night outdoor activities, I don't think. I don't think that's what goes on. I got time to get this in. One more story out of Mexico. This article is talking about something that's been going on for a long time. This is not brand new. I lived in California for a while when this was happening. And I left California in 1995. In 1995, they would have to close down beaches occasionally because of raw sewage. And that comes up from Mexico. It's linked to the Tijuana River, carries untreated waste from Mexico into U.S. waters. Well, apparently it hasn't gotten any better. In fact, if anything, it's gotten much worse. Even as far north as San Diego, in the Coronado area, the Hotel del Coronado, it has to close the beach outside them for unsafe conditions. Yeah, unsafe. And it leads to gastrointestinal illness, airborne toxins, and shuts the beach down, and headaches, breathing problems. That's just for people that live on the beach. You don't go in the water. Those things get all closed at that time. Yeah, you don't go in the water. I don't know why we can't do something as a country about that. I mean, Donald Trump is aware of it. He's called on Mexico to address the flow of untreated wastewater in the United States. And it's a threat to nearby communities. It's a threat, absolutely. And we have a river that goes south into Mexico, right through Yuma, goes south every day down to Mexico. And there's people out there every day measuring it and testing it to make sure it meets the right conditions according to treaty that we would do, clean water down into Mexico. We should just pipe that sewage from Tijuana into that river and just send it back. Send it back down the Colorado. That would be terrible, but I guess they don't have the same sewage concerns in Mexico, Tijuana. They don't have that infrastructure as we would see as required, necessary. One of the users on X wrote, "There's a really unpleasant sewage odor outside that drifts into my apartment. It's been happening for months. No improvement. It's been going on for far too long. It even affects the Navy SEAL training in Coronado. You know, and those guys do a lot of training in the ocean, obviously. That's why they're Navy SEALs. And it affects them. They can't go onto it. But plus, it's just the danger of disease. These airborne toxins down there, a lot of headaches, breathing problems. It's hydrogen sulfide. It is the gas. It irritates the eyes, respiratory system. It's just disgusting. It goes on into San Diego, and south, all the way south. So Mexico's got to be doing it. I mean, they got to be feeling it also. Apparently, they're under the same program of just dumping raw sewage into the ocean. Ocean's big; it'll take care of it, I guess, according to them. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be back and broadcasting here from Mortgage One Studios. I'm Russ Clark.